The war room of the dreadnought, Eternal Conquest, hummed with quiet power. Ships stretched out in every direction through the viewing ports, their hulls gleaming under distant starlight. There were hundreds of them, 847 vessels to be exact, each one carrying enough firepower to level cities. Together, they represented the largest military force the Vraxian Empire had assembled in 3 generations. Commander Thralaxis stood at the center of the room, his 4 arms crossed behind his back in the traditional stance of authority. His scales caught the blue light from the tactical displays, creating patterns that shifted across his face as data scrolled past. Around him, the Dominance Council sat in their elevated positions, 12 of the most powerful beings in Vraxian space. They had come here personally, for this briefing. That alone told him how important this mission was. "Begin your report, Commander," High Counselor Veshnok said. Her voice was cold and sharp, like ice cracking. Thralaxis activated the main display. An image materialized above the tactical table. It showed a yellow star with several planets orbiting around it. The 3rd planet glowed blue and green. Earth, the human homeworld. The target system is designated Sol by its inhabitants, Thralaxis began. It contains 8 major planets and 1 inhabited world. The humans call it Earth. Population estimates range between 12 and 15 billion. One of the counselors leaned forward. Such a large population must surely have significant defenses. That is what one would expect, Counselor. However, our intelligence suggests otherwise. Thralaxis gestured, and new data appeared. Ship counts, weapon specifications, defensive installations. All of it looked remarkably modest. The humans have been spacefaring for approximately 178 standard years. Their fastest-than-light technology is functional but crude. They have colonies on 12 worlds, none with populations exceeding 2 million. And their military? Another counselor asked. Scattered and divided. The humans maintain separate defense forces for each colony cluster. Their largest unified fleet protects Earth and numbers fewer than 200 vessels. Our intelligence indicates most of these are patrol craft and cargo escorts, not true warships. Murmurs ran through the council chamber. Thralaxis could hear the satisfaction in those sounds. This would be easier than expected. High Counselor Veshnok tapped her claws on her armrest. Extensively, High Counselor. The humans have engaged in 3 minor conflicts with neighboring species. 2 ended in negotiated settlements. The 3rd was a border dispute with the Telic Consortium that the humans withdrew from after losing a single colony ship. They have no recorded victories against peer military forces. Then why? Veshnok asked slowly. Do they refuse our tribute demands? Surely they understand their position. Thralaxis allowed himself a small smile. Pride. High Counselor. The humans are a young species. They do not yet understand how the galaxy works. They believe their diplomatic treaties will protect them. They believe the Galactic Council will intervene on their behalf. The Council is weak, Veshnok said dismissively. They will file protests and pass resolutions while we take what we need. The humans have resources we require: minerals, biological compounds, manufacturing capacity, and they sit on prime trade routes. It is wasteful to negotiate when we can simply take. The other counselors voiced their agreement. Thralaxis waited for them to finish before continuing. Our plan is straightforward. We will enter the Sol system in full battle formation. The sight of our fleet will break their will to resist. We will position ourselves in orbit around Earth and broadcast our demands. If they surrender immediately, we will accept their tribute and establish occupation forces on key colonies. If they resist, he paused. We have 12 planet cracker weapons in the fleet. One demonstration on an uninhabited moon should be sufficient to convince them. And if it is not sufficient? A counselor asked. Thralaxis met the counselor's gaze steadily. Then Earth becomes an example to the rest of the galaxy. No species refuses the Vraxian Empire twice. The counselors discussed this among themselves. Thralaxis waited patiently. He had been planning this operation for 6 months. Every detail had been considered. Every contingency prepared for. The humans would surrender. They had no choice. Finally, High Counselor Veshnak raised her hand for silence. The Dominance Council approves this action. Commander Thralaxis, you will proceed with the invasion of the Sol system. Bring the humans to heel. Show the galaxy that the Vraxian Empire takes what it wants. Thralaxis bowed deeply. It will be done, High Counselor. We depart within the hour. The counselors filed out, leaving Thralaxis alone with his command staff. His second officer, Krelvor, approached with a data tablet. All ships report ready, Commander. Hyperspace calculations are complete. We can jump on your order. Estimated transit time? 72 standard hours to reach Sol system. We will emerge at the edge of their territory, just beyond the orbit of their outermost planet. Thralaxis nodded. 3 days. In 3 days, this would all be over. The humans would kneel, or they would burn. Either way, the Vraxian Empire would have what it wanted. One thing troubles me, Commander, Krelvor said quietly. Speak. The humans have been in space for nearly 2 centuries. They have colonies across multiple systems, yet they maintain such a small military. Either they are fools, or what? Thralaxis asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Or they do not need a large military. I have been reviewing historical records. No major power has ever attacked Earth directly. There have been border skirmishes, raids on outlying colonies, but no one has ever threatened their homeworld, because it was not worth the effort. The humans had nothing valuable enough to justify a full invasion. That has changed. Their territory blocks our expansion. Their resources could fuel our empire for a generation. They are valuable now, so we take them. There is no mystery here. Krelvor, his second officer, bowed. Of course, Commander. I will give the order to prepare for hyperspace transit. Krelvor left. But his words lingered in Thralaxis's mind. Why had no one ever attacked Earth? The humans were weak. Their defenses were minimal. Any of a dozen major powers could have conquered them at any time. Yet no one had. Was it simply that the humans were not worth the trouble? Or was there something else? Something the intelligence reports had missed? Thralaxis dismissed the thought. He was allowing doubt to creep in before a major operation. That was the path to failure. The facts were clear. The humans were weak. His fleet was strong. Victory was certain. He walked to the viewing port and looked out at his armada. 847 ships. Crews numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Weapons that could shatter planets. This was power. This was strength. The humans would see this force appear in their sky, and they would understand that resistance was futile. All ships report ready for hyperspace, Commander, the communications officer announced. Give the order, Thralaxis said. All ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Space twisted. The stars stretched into lines of light. The Vraxian armada vanished from normal space, hurtling through the void between dimensions toward the Sol system. Far away, in a different part of the galaxy, alarms began to sound. Luna Station orbited Earth like a small moon of its own. It was humanity's primary military coordination facility. A gleaming ring of metal and glass that housed thousands of personnel. From its command center, the entire Sol system could be monitored and coordinated. Admiral Chen Wei stood in that command center now, watching displays that showed every corner of human space. She was a small woman, but her presence filled the room. People moved quickly when she gave orders. They had learned that she did not waste words or time. Admiral, we have confirmation, her tactical officer said. Deep space sensors detected a massive hyperspace displacement, 2.3 light-years from Sol. Estimated vessel count is between 8 and 900. Configuration matches Vraxian Empire signatures. Chen nodded slowly. She had been expecting this. The Vraxians had been making demands for months. Tribute payments. Access rights to human trade routes. Basing privileges on colonial worlds. Every demand had been politely but firmly refused. She knew it would lead to this eventually. Time to arrival? Based on their hyperspace efficiency, approximately 72 hours, they will emerge somewhere in the outer system. And our fleet? 63 ships ready for immediate deployment. Another 27 can be pulled from patrol routes within 12 hours. Admiral, even with every ship we have, we are outnumbered more than 8 to 1. Chen turned to look at her tactical officer. He was young, newly promoted. He had probably never seen real combat. He did not understand what was about to happen. None of the young ones did. Send word to all colonies, she said calmly. Inform them that we have a situation in the Sol system. Non-essential travel is suspended. All colonial defense forces are to go to alert status but remain at their posts. This is a Sol system matter. Admiral, should we not call in reinforcements? If we pull ships from the colonies? No. Chen's voice was quiet but absolute. The colonies stay protected. We handle this here. 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 But Admiral, the numbers are irrelevant, Lieutenant. Chen turned back to the displays. Have you ever wondered why our military is so small? Why we don't maintain massive fleets like the other major powers? I assumed it was a budget consideration, Admiral. Or perhaps our diplomatic approach. It is because we do not need a large military. Not here. Not in Seoul. Chen pulled up a different display. It showed the solar system in detail. Planets, moons, asteroid belts, everything. Send a priority alert to Mars Defense Command, Jupiter Station, and Belt Operations. Authorization code, Tartarus. The lieutenant's fingers froze over his console. Admiral, that code. I have to verify. That authorization is reserved for existential threats to Earth. I know. Verify it. Use my personal command codes. Then send it. ATA. ATA. Rest as one. The lieutenant worked quickly, his hands shaking slightly. After a moment, he looked up. Message sent, Admiral. All stations acknowledge. They are requesting confirmation. Jupiter Station wants to know if this is a drill. Tell them it is not a drill. Tell them we have a hostile fleet inbound with invasion intent. Protocol. Tartarus is active. Around the command center, the other officers had gone quiet. They were all staring at Chen now. Some of them knew what Protocol Tartarus meant. Most did not. They were about to learn. Admiral, her executive officer said quietly. She had come to stand beside Chen. Commander Sarah Mitchell had served with Chen for 15 years. She was one of the few who knew the truth. Are you certain? Once we activate the protocol, we cannot hide it anymore. The whole galaxy will know. Way. They are coming to take our home, Sarah. What choice do we have? We could evacuate. We could negotiate. We could. True. 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 We could run, you mean? Chen shook her head. No. That is not who we are. That is not who we have ever been. The Vraxians think we are weak because we prefer peace. They think our small military means we cannot defend ourselves. It is time they learned the truth. It is time they learned what every other species that came here learned. Those. Everyone. That truth has a cost, Admiral. Everything has a cost. Chen looked at her old friend. But some things are worth any price. Earth is one of them. Mitchell nodded slowly. She understood. She had always understood. Sound system-wide alert, Chen ordered. All civilian traffic is to clear main approach vectors. Get everyone to safe harbor. I want the space around Earth, Mars, and the belt as empty as possible. What about warning the Vraxians? The lieutenant asked. Should we transmit a message? Tell them to turn back? Chen considered this. Yes. Send them a standard warning. Inform them they are approaching restricted space. Advise them to alter course. Use the diplomatic protocols. Will they listen? No, Chen said simply. They never do. But we have to try. We have to give them the chance to turn back. The message was sent. It would take hours to reach the Vraxian fleet, traveling at light speed. By the time they received it, they would be committed to their approach. They would ignore it. They would come anyway, confident in their superior numbers, certain of their victory. Chen pulled up one final display. This one did not show ships or stations. It showed something else. Power signatures scattered throughout the solar system. Most people looking at this display would think they were seeing mining operations, research stations, commercial facilities. Chen knew better. She knew what those signatures really represented. How long since the last activation? She asked quietly. Mitchell checked her records. 43 years. The Krell swarm. Before that, 78 years. The Confederation War Fleet. Before that, I know the list, Sarah. I have memorized it. Chen touched the display, her fingers tracing the patterns of hidden power. Every time they come. Every time they think we are weak. Every time they learn differently. Will there ever be a time when they stop coming? Perhaps. When enough of them have learned, when enough fleets have entered Sol, and never returned, when the lesson is finally taught so many times that the whole galaxy remembers. Chen turned away from the display. But that time is not today. Today, the Vraxians will learn, just like all the others. She walked to the window that looked out over Earth. The planet turned slowly below, blue and green and beautiful. 12 billion people down there, living their lives. Most of them completely unaware that hundreds of alien warships were coming to enslave or destroy them. But they would never reach Earth. None of them would. Chen had made that promise long ago, when she first learned the truth about humanity's homeworld. When she first understood what her ancestors had built, hidden in the dark spaces of the solar system. When she learned about Protocol Tartarus, Admiral. The communications officer said, "We are receiving acknowledgements from the outer system. The protocols are activating. Power signatures increasing across all hidden installations. Good. Let them wake up. Let them warm up their systems. By the time the Vraxians arrive, everything will be ready." Should we inform Earth, the civilian government? Chen shook her head. They will know soon enough. For now, let them sleep peacefully. They have earned that peace. Our ancestors built these defenses so that Earth could rest easy, knowing it was protected. We honor that purpose by keeping the watch, just as they did. Outside the window, Earth continued its eternal rotation, unaware and safe. Behind it, in the darkness between stars, ancient weapons stirred from their long sleep. The Vraxians were coming, but Sol was ready. Space twisted and tore as 847 Vraxian warships emerged from hyperspace. The transition from faster-than-light travel back to normal space was never gentle. It created ripples in reality that could be detected from light years away. For a fleet this size, the distortion was like a scream in the silence of space. Commander Thralaxes gripped his command chair as the Eternal Conquest shuddered back into normal space. The view screens flickered, then stabilized, showing the outer reaches of the Sol system. In the distance, he could see the dim light of the human star. All ships report successful transition, Krelvor announced. Minor navigation drift on the outer wing vessels, but nothing significant. All weapon systems nominal. All reactors stable. The fleet is ready, Commander. Thralxis allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Jumping an entire war fleet through hyperspace was a complex operation. Ships could be scattered across light hours of space if the calculations were wrong, but his fleet had emerged in perfect formation. 847 warships arranged in a three-dimensional combat pattern that stretched across thousands of kilometers. It was beautiful in its way, beautiful and terrifying. Begin sensor sweeps. Full spectrum. I want to know everything about this system. Within the hour, the sensor operators bent to their tasks. Displays began filling with data. Planets, moons, asteroids, comets. The Sol system was remarkably busy. There were more objects here than in most systems. More resources, more places for things to hide. Initial scans complete, Commander, the chief sensor operator reported. The system contains 8 major planets, numerous dwarf planets, and extensive asteroid fields. We are detecting significant commercial activity throughout the inner system. Automated mining operations in the Belt region. Multiple space stations in orbit around the 3rd and 4th planets. Military installations? Surprisingly few, Commander. We detect defensive platforms around the 3rd planet, Earth. Standard design, nothing exceptional. Approximately 40 installations total. We also detect sensor arrays scattered throughout the system, but they appear to be civilian-grade, designed for navigation and communication rather than military purposes. What about their fleet? Thralxis demanded. Where are their ships? We have detected 68 vessels in the inner system, Commander. Most are clustered around Earth. Configuration suggests patrol, craft, and system defense vessels. Nothing larger than a light cruiser. We also detect scattered commercial traffic, but these vessels are fleeing toward planetary orbits. They appear to be running from us. Thralxis exchanged glances with Krelvor. This was going even better than expected. The humans had almost no defenses. Their fleet was a joke. Their installations were minimal. They had made no preparations for invasion at all. Perhaps they did not believe we would actually come, Krelvor suggested. Or they have accepted defeat before the battle begins. Thralxis said. Continue the sensor sweeps. Look for hidden installations, cloaked vessels, anything that might be a trap, but maintain our advance. Standard battle speed. We will reach the inner system in 48 hours. The fleet began to move. 847 ships, all burning their engines in perfect synchronization, creating a wall of metal and weapons that advanced inexorably toward the heart of the Sol system. It was the kind of display that broke empires. The kind of power that made entire species surrender, without firing a shot. But as they moved deeper into the system, strange reports began to filter up to Thralxis. Commander, we are detecting unusual energy signatures in the asteroid belt, the sensor operator said. Power readings that do not correspond to any mining operations. They are too large, too focused. Specifications, difficult to determine. The readings are scattered, as if there are many small sources spread throughout the belt, rather than a few large installations. We are also detecting similar readings near the gas giant planets, particularly around the 5th and 6th planets. Thralxis pulled up the sensor data on his display. The readings were indeed strange. They showed power signatures that were too large to be civilian, but too scattered to be military bases, and there were many of them. Hundreds, perhaps thousands. Could they be weapons platforms? He asked. Possible, Commander, but if so, they are inactive. No targeting sensors, no active power feeds to weapon systems. They might be old installations that the humans have abandoned. That made sense. The humans had been in space for nearly 2 centuries. They had probably built defensive installations in the early years, when they were still afraid of the unknown galaxy. Later, as they became more confident, they had abandoned those installations, left them to drift in the belt, powerless and forgotten. Mark their positions but do not engage. We have no reason to waste ammunition on abandoned installations. Focus on the active defenses around Earth. The fleet continued its advance. They passed through the region where the ninth planet had once orbited. Thralaxis remembered reading that the humans had declassified their ninth planet, deciding it was too small to count. He found that amusing. Such a small, petty concern for a species about to lose everything. As they crossed into the region of the eighth planet, a massive blue giant that the humans called Neptune, the sensor readings became even stranger. "Commander, we are detecting movement. Multiple objects are changing course to intercept our fleet." Thralaxis sat forward. "Finally, the human fleet is engaging. Battle stations. All ships prepare for combat." Alarms sounded throughout the eternal conquest. Across the fleet, hundreds of thousands of warriors moved to their positions. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. The Vraxian Empire would finally show these humans what real military power looked like. But the sensors did not show the human fleet approaching. Instead, they showed something else. Small objects, each no larger than a fighter craft, emerging from positions scattered throughout the outer system. They were moving fast. Very fast. Faster than any manned vessel should be able to move. "Get me a count," Thralaxis ordered. "Still counting, Commander. We have passed 500 contacts. Now 700. Now 1,000. Commander, there are thousands of them. They are emerging from all around us." Thralaxis felt a cold sensation creep down his spine. "What are they?" "Unknown, Commander. They are too small to be warships. They might be missiles or drones, but they are not moving to attack. They are simply positioning themselves, creating a sphere around our fleet." On the tactical display, Thralaxis could see what the sensors were showing. His fleet was surrounded. Thousands of small contacts had appeared from seemingly nowhere and were now hovering at a distance, forming a perfect sphere with the Vraxian armada at its center. "They are blocking our retreat vector," Krelvor said quietly. "If we wanted to jump to hyperspace, we would have to get past them first." "We are not retreating," Thralaxis snapped. "We continue the advance. Ignore these drones. They are probably some kind of automated defense system, meant to intimidate us. The humans are showing us that they have more defenses than we thought. But they are still no match for our firepower." As if in response to his words, a transmission came through. It was audio only. No visual. The voice that spoke was human, female, and eerily calm. "Vraxian fleet, this is Luna Station, Sol Defense Command. You have entered restricted space. You are ordered to halt your advance and withdraw beyond the heliopause. This is your only warning." Thralaxis laughed. It was a harsh sound that made several of his officers flinch. "This is Commander Thralaxis of the Vraxian Empire. We do not take orders from prey species. You will surrender immediately. Disarm your pathetic fleet and prepare to receive our occupation forces. If you comply, Earth will be spared. If you resist, we will burn your world and scatter your people across the stars as slaves. You have 1 hour to respond." There was a long silence. Then the human voice spoke again. Still calm. Still absolutely composed. "Commander Thralaxis, I am Admiral Chen Wei. I am going to tell you something that you will not believe. But I tell you anyway, because it is the truth. You should leave. Leave now, while you still can. Do not come any closer to Earth." "Or what?" Thralaxis demanded. "You will throw your handful of ships against my armada? You will activate your ancient drones? We have faced worse than anything you can possibly throw at us." "No," Chen Wei said softly. "You have not. No one has. That is the point, Commander. No one who has come to Sol with hostile intent has ever faced what waits here and survived to face anything else." Thralaxis felt irritation building into anger. "You speak in riddles, human. Perhaps you do not understand your situation. We are the largest military force in this sector of the galaxy. We have weapons that can crack planets. We have more ships than you have cities. Surrender now. Or die. I understand the situation perfectly, Commander. The question is whether you do. Let me explain something to you. Humanity has been in space for a long time. When we first left Earth, we were afraid. We were small and weak and alone. We knew that the galaxy was full of species that might want to destroy us. So we built defenses. Real defenses. The kind that could stand against anything. The defenses we see are pathetic, Thralxis said. The defenses you see are modern. They are what we built after we became confident, after we made friends with other species, after we started to believe that the galaxy could be a safe place. But we never forgot the lessons we learned in the beginning. We never forgot what it felt like to be weak and afraid. So we kept the old defenses. Just in case. Just in case someone like you decided to test us. Thralxis had heard enough. You are wasting my time with stories. This communication is ended. We will continue our advance. When we reach Earth, you will surrender or you will burn. He cut the transmission. Around the command center, his officers looked uncertain. They had heard the strange confidence in the human's voice. They were wondering if maybe, possibly, the humans knew something that the Vraxians did not. Continue the advance, Thralxis ordered. The fleet moved deeper into the system. They passed Neptune, then Uranus. The gas giants were massive, their atmospheres swirling with eternal storms. The humans had research stations around both planets, but these stations were evacuating, their personnel fleeing to safer locations. That was good. It meant the humans understood what was coming. As they approached the asteroid belt between the orbits of the fourth and fifth planets, the energy readings grew stronger. Commander, whatever is generating those power signatures is activating. We are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the belt. Also, around the gas giant Jupiter. Also, on several of the moons. Visual confirmation, Thralxis ordered. I want to see what we are dealing with. The main screen shifted to show a section of the asteroid belt. At first, it looked normal. Thousands of rocks tumbling through space, varying in size from pebbles to mountains. But as he watched, one of the asteroids changed. Its surface cracked open like a flower blooming. Metal unfolded from inside, revealing structures that had been hidden within the rock. Weapons, power cores, shield generators. What had looked like a simple asteroid was actually a weapons platform, disguised and waiting. Gods of the void, Krelvor whispered. How many of them are there? The sensors gave the answer. Throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of similar asteroids were opening. Each one revealed hidden weapons platforms. Some were small, no larger than a fighter. Others were massive, the size of cruisers. All of them were powering up. All of them were ancient. Their designs centuries old. Their technology from an era when humanity had been desperate and afraid and determined never to be conquered. Those designs, one of the technical officers said. Commander, those are pre-treaty designs, before the Galactic Armament Conventions, before the restrictions on weapons of mass destruction. The humans built these when they were still alone in the galaxy, before they agreed to limit their military. Thralxis felt his confidence beginning to waver. There were thousands of these platforms, maybe tens of thousands. He could not get an accurate count because they kept appearing, more and more of them revealing themselves throughout the belt and beyond. We were told the humans had disarmed, he said. We were told they had dismantled their early defensive networks under treaty obligation. They reported them as dismantled, Krelvor said, but they did not say where they moved them, or if they truly deactivated them. A new transmission came through. Chen Wei's voice again, still calm, but now there was something else in it. Sadness, maybe. Regret. I warned you, Commander. You should have listened. You cannot possibly think these ancient weapons can stand against my fleet. Thralxis shouted. They are centuries old. Our technology is far superior. Your technology is more advanced, yes. But our old technology was designed for one purpose, and one purpose only. To make sure that nothing, absolutely nothing, could ever threaten Earth. They do not need to be sophisticated, Commander. They just need to work. And they have been waiting a very long time to work again. All ships, fire at will, Thralxus commanded. Destroy those platforms. The Vraxian fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward the asteroid belt. The firepower was incredible. Enough to level continents. Enough to boil oceans. Thralxus watched the displays, waiting to see the ancient human weapons vaporize under his assault. The beams reached the belt. And stopped. Simply stopped. As if hitting an invisible wall. The energy dissipated harmlessly into space. The missiles detonated against something that was not there. Their explosions absorbed by fields that should not have existed. Report, Thralxus demanded. What just happened? Commander. There is some kind of defensive field surrounding the entire asteroid belt. Our weapons cannot penetrate it. The field is massive. It encompasses billions of cubic kilometers. I have never seen anything like it. Thralxus felt ice in his blood. A defensive field that large should not be possible. The power requirements would be astronomical. No civilization he knew of could generate that much energy. Unless the humans are channeling power from the sun itself, his science officer said, reading the sensor data. They have installations near the star. Massive solar collectors that are feeding power to the defensive network. Commander, the amount of energy they are harvesting is... It is impossible. They are drawing more power than some entire civilizations use. The tactical display updated. It now showed the full extent of the human defensive network. Not just the asteroid belt, but installations throughout the entire system. The gas giant Jupiter had massive weapon arrays attached to its moons. Saturn was surrounded by autonomous hunter-killer drones. Neptune, the planet they had just passed, had weapons in its upper atmosphere. Weapons that could fire with the fury of a planetary magnetic field behind them. And all of it was powering up. All of it was turning toward the Vraxian fleet. They have made the entire star system into a fortress, Krelvor said. His voice was hollow with shock. Not just Earth. The entire system, every planet, every moon, every asteroid, all of it is one massive defensive installation. Chenwei's voice came through again. We tried to warn you, Commander. Sol is not just humanity's home, it is humanity's fortress, and you just walked into it. From Luna Station, Earth's moon, weapons that had slept for decades suddenly woke. The moon's surface cracked open in a dozen places. Massive cannons emerged, each one capable of firing beams that could burn through battle armor like paper. They were designed by humans who had looked at their moon and asked themselves, what if we turned it into a weapon? Around Jupiter, the largest planet in the system, research facilities that were not research facilities at all dropped their disguises. They were power stations, massive beyond reason, using the gas giant's powerful magnetic field as fuel. They could generate enough energy to light up an entire civilization, or to fire weapons that could crack moons. In the belt, tens of thousands of hidden platforms came fully online. Each one locked its targeting sensors onto the Vraxian fleet. Each one loaded weapons that had been manufactured 200 years ago by humans who believed, truly believed, that they might be the last of their species if they did not prepare for the worst. And in the darkness beyond Neptune, in the cold spaces where comets drifted, millions of autonomous drones activated. They were small and simple. Each one carried a single weapon designed to do one thing: punch through ship armor and detonate inside. There were enough of them to attack every ship in the Vraxian fleet 1,000 times over. Thralxus stared at the tactical display. His fleet, the pride of the Vraxian Empire, was surrounded. Above them, below them, in front, and behind. Everywhere he looked, there were weapons. Ancient weapons, built by a species that had been terrified of the dark and determined to light it up with fire if necessary. "Admiral Chen," he said, his voice much quieter now. "What are you?" "We are what we have always been, Commander. We are humans. We are the species that survived because we refused to die. We are the species that looked at the stars and decided we would make them safe for our children, no matter the cost. We are the species that every other species has forgotten to fear, because we are kind and patient and prefer peace." She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was harder. "But we are also the species that will burn the sky before we let anyone threaten our home. You came here to conquer us. You came here to make us kneel. But you do not understand. We built Sol into a place where conquest comes to die, and you just became the latest lesson for the galaxy. We can still destroy you," Thralexis said. But there was no conviction in his words. "No, Commander, you cannot. You could not from the moment you entered our system. We let you come this far because we needed you to see. We needed you to understand. So that when you go back, if you go back, you can tell your empire what waits here. You can tell them why no one threatens Earth twice." Kroof. Clued. The moon lit up like a new sun as its weapons fired. The lesson had begun. The first beam struck the Vraxian heavy cruiser, Devastation's honor, across its forward shields. The ship's defensive systems had been designed to withstand incredible punishment. They had been tested against every known weapon in the galaxy. They had never failed. They failed now. The beam punched through the shields like they were not there. It carved through the ship's armor, through its internal bulkheads, through crew compartments and weapon bays and engineering spaces. It went in through the bow and came out through the stern. The ship hung in space for a moment, perfectly still. Then it broke apart, exploding into thousands of pieces that scattered like seeds in the wind. It had taken less than 3 seconds. "Evasive action," Thralxis screamed. But there was nowhere to scatter to. The Vraxian fleet was surrounded on all sides. More beams lanced out from the moon, each one finding a target with horrible precision. Ship after ship died. Some exploded. Some simply stopped, their systems completely overloaded, their crews dead before they knew what hit them. Some were cut in half, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. The Vraxian fleet finally returned fire. Thousands of weapons opened up simultaneously, targeting the moon, the asteroid belt, the hidden platforms. The amount of firepower was staggering. It could have destroyed fleets, leveled cities, boiled oceans. It accomplished nothing. Every shot that came close to Earth was intercepted. The defensive field that protected the asteroid belt extended all the way to the planet. The Vraxian weapons struck the field and simply vanished, their energy absorbed and dispersed. A few shots made it through gaps in the field, heading for the moon itself. But the moon had its own shields. Shields that had been improved and updated over 2 centuries. The Vraxian weapons exploded harmlessly against them. "Commander, we cannot penetrate their defenses," the weapons officer shouted. "Every shot is being absorbed or deflected. We are wasting ammunition." "Then target the platforms in the belt. Destroy the weapons before they can fire." But that was easier said than done. The asteroid platforms were small and numerous. They hid behind rocks and debris. They moved constantly, never staying in one place. And there were so many of them. For every platform the Vraxians destroyed, 10 more appeared from hiding. And the platforms were firing now. Not the massive beams from the moon, but smaller weapons. Railguns that fired metal slugs at relativistic speeds. Lasers that could cut through armor with surgical precision. Missile swarms that attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. The Vraxian shields held against these weapons, mostly, but the sheer volume of fire was overwhelming. Shields began to fail. Armor began to crack. Ships began to die. Thralexis watched his fleet disintegrate. 20 ships gone. 30. 50. The numbers climbed with horrible speed. His warriors were fighting back with everything they had. They were brave. They were well-trained. They were using every tactic they knew. It did not matter. "Sir, we are detecting new contacts," the sensor operator said. "Large objects emerging from Jupiter's orbit. They are gods. They are moving fast. They will reach us in 10 minutes. The tactical display updated. Thralaxes saw the new contacts. They were huge, each one the size of a battle cruiser. But they were not ships. They were weapons. Massive weapons platforms that had been hiding in Jupiter's shadow, waiting. "What are those?" he demanded. "Unknown configuration, Commander. But the power readings are. We cannot get accurate measurements. They are too high. Whatever those platforms are, they have access to enormous amounts of energy." Krelvor pulled up data on his console. "Commander, I have accessed the galactic database. I am searching for any mention of human weapons like this. There is. Yes. Here, a report from 60 years ago. The Telic Consortium filed a complaint with the Galactic Council. They claimed that humanity was violating the armament conventions by maintaining weapons platforms in orbit around Jupiter. The humans claimed these were research stations studying the planet's magnetic field. And the Council investigated. The humans showed them the stations. They were indeed conducting research. The Council found no violations. The complaint was dismissed. Appler. We 1-1 Ilefs. 1-1-1. Thralaxis felt sick. The research was real, but it was also a cover. They were researching the magnetic field so they could weaponize it. It appears so, Commander. The Jupiter platforms opened fire. The beams that emerged from them were different from anything Thralaxis had seen. They did not look like lasers or plasma. They looked like lightning, pure electrical energy channeled and directed. When they struck Vraxian ships, the results were catastrophic. The electricity overloaded every system. Computers fried. Weapons exploded. Life support failed. Warriors died at their stations, electrocuted even inside their ships, and the platforms kept firing. They had the power of Jupiter's entire magnetic field behind them. They could fire continuously without pause. They could maintain this barrage for hours, days, weeks if necessary. "Sir, we have lost over 200 ships," Krelvor reported. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "Casualties are estimated at over 400,000 warriors. Multiple ships are reporting system failures. The fleet is breaking apart. Order a retreat. All ships that can still navigate, withdraw to the outer system. We will regroup beyond Neptune and reassess. Commander, the drones are blocking our hyperspace exit points. We cannot jump without clearing them first. Then clear them. Use our fighters. Use our missiles. Use everything we have. But clear those exit points." The Vraxian fleet tried to disengage. It was a complicated maneuver under the best circumstances. Under fire, with ships dying by the minute, it was nearly impossible. But they had no choice. They had to retreat, or they would all die here. Fighters launched from the surviving carriers. Thousands of small craft streaming out to attack the autonomous drones. The drones were old. Their designs simple. They should have been easy targets for modern fighters with advanced weapons and shields. They were not easy targets. The drones moved like nothing the Vraxian pilots had ever seen. They did not fly like machines following programs. They flew like living things, adapting and learning with each exchange. When pilots used a tactic that worked, the drones adjusted, and that tactic never worked again. They swarmed over the fighters, attacking in coordination that suggested intelligence. But there was no intelligence, just very, very good programming by humans who had been absolutely determined that nothing would get past their defenses. The fighter wings were slaughtered. A few drones were destroyed, but for every drone lost, dozens of fighters died. The pilots were brave. They pressed their attacks even as their squadrons were annihilated. But bravery was not enough against weapons that did not feel fear or doubt. Fighter wings are gone, Commander. The drones are still blocking all hyperspace vectors. Thralexis made a decision. All ships with planet cracker weapons, target Earth. Fire on my command. Sir, the defensive fields. I know about the defensive fields. But the planet crackers are our most powerful weapons. If anything can penetrate those fields, they can. Fire. 12 ships turned their most terrible weapons toward Earth. The planet crackers were exactly what their name suggested. They were weapons designed to destroy worlds. Each one generated a beam of such concentrated energy that it could bore through a planet's crust and ignite its core. They were banned by every civilized species. The Vraxian Empire had built them anyway. All 12 fired simultaneously. The beams converged on Earth. From the planet, it must have looked like 12 new stars had suddenly appeared in the sky. The energy was blinding, more powerful than anything else the Vraxians had used. The beams struck the defensive field and stopped. The field absorbed the energy. All of it. The planet crackers poured their fury into the field for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. The field held. It did not even flicker. Then, something else happened. The energy began to flow back. The field had not just absorbed the planet cracker beams. It had captured them, stored them, and now it was returning them to their source. All 12 beams reversed direction and shot back toward the Vraxian ships that had fired them. The ships tried to dodge. They tried to raise their shields. It did not matter. Their own weapons struck them with their own power. All 12 ships that had fired the planet crackers died instantly, vaporized by the energy they had unleashed. Impossible, Thralexis whispered. That is impossible. You cannot reverse a planet cracker beam. The physics does not allow it. But the humans had found a way. Of course they had. They had centuries to study physics. They had centuries to prepare for this exact scenario. They had imagined every possible weapon that might threaten their world, and they had built defenses against all of them. Commander, we have now lost 350 ships. That is over 40% of our fleet. We must retreat. I am aware, Thralexis shouted. Do you think I do not know? But we cannot retreat. The drones. Then we surrender, sir. We contact the humans, and we offer our surrender. Perhaps they will let us leave. Thralexis looked at his second officer. Surrender. The word tasted like poison. The Vraxian Empire did not surrender. The Vraxian Empire conquered or died trying. That was their way. That was who they were. But his warriors were dying. His ships were being destroyed. And for what? For pride? For the sake of tradition? What good was tradition when everyone was dead? Open a channel to Admiral Chen, he said quietly. The communication officer worked quickly. After a moment, the human's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than her voice suggested, tired. But her eyes were hard and showed no mercy. Commander Thralexis, she said. Are you ready to listen now? I am requesting terms of surrender, Thralexis said. Each word felt like pulling out his own teeth. What are your demands? I do not have demands, Commander. I have statements of fact. First fact. You will order your fleet to power down all weapons immediately. Any ship that continues to fire will be destroyed. Second fact. You will move your fleet to coordinates that we will provide. You will stay there until we decide what to do with you. Third fact. You will repair your own ships using your own resources. We will not help you. Fourth fact. When your ships are able to travel again, you will leave Sol system and you will never return. Do you understand these facts? Fourth, 5. I understand. But my warriors will not accept this. They will want to keep fighting. They would rather die than surrender. Chen's expression did not change. Then they will die. I will be honest with you, Commander. I do not want to kill your warriors. I take no joy in this. But I will kill every single one of them if they continue to threaten Earth. My feelings do not matter. The safety of my world matters. Only that. My feelings not. Thralexis believed her. He could hear the truth in her voice. She would kill them all without hesitation if she had to. Not because she was cruel, but because she was doing her job. Protecting Earth, just as his job was to serve the Empire. They were both warriors following orders. But her orders came with weapons that could not be defeated. I will order the fleet to stand down, he said. Good. Send the order now. We will be monitoring. Any ship that does not comply will be destroyed immediately. Thralexis sent the order. Throughout the fleet, weapons powered down. Shields dropped. Ships stopped moving. They hung in space like dead things, surrounded by debris and bodies, and the shattered remains of Vraxian pride. 427 ships remained. Over 400 had been destroyed. The casualty count was close to 1 million warriors. 1 million Vraxians had entered the Sol system. Less than half would leave, and they had not even reached Earth. Commander, Krelvor said quietly. What happened here? How did they do this? We had superior numbers, superior technology, superior training. How did we lose so badly? Thralexis did not answer immediately. He was looking at the tactical display. It now showed the full extent of the human defensive network. Thousands of weapons platforms, millions of drones, energy collectors around the sun, massive installations on planets and moons. All of it connected. All of it coordinated. All of it designed for one purpose. We lost, he finally said. Because the humans did not build a military to fight wars. They built a fortress to protect their home. There is a difference. A military can be defeated in battle, but a fortress just waits. It does not get tired. It does not get discouraged. It just waits for the enemy to come, and then it destroys them. But why? Why build something like this? Why not just build a larger fleet? Because a fleet can be destroyed, a fleet can be caught away from home, a fleet can lose battles. But this... Thralexis gestured at the display. This cannot be destroyed. You would have to destroy the entire system to get rid of these defenses. You would have to crack every moon, shatter every asteroid, drain the power from the sun itself. And even if you did all that, I think the humans would find a way to keep fighting. He thought about Admiral Chen's words, about humanity's history, about a species that had been alone and afraid in the dark. They had built these defenses not out of aggression, but out of fear. Fear that one day, someone would come to take their world. And when that fear became reality, when the Krell swarm came, when the Confederation came, when the Vraxians came, the defenses were waiting. They are not warriors like us, Thralxes said. They do not seek glory in battle. They seek only to survive. And they have made survival into an art form. They have made their home system into something that cannot be conquered. What will we tell the Council? Krelvor asked. How do we explain this defeat? We tell them the truth. We tell them that we attacked a sleeping fortress and it woke up. We tell them that Earth is protected by weapons built by a species that was willing to do anything, sacrifice anything, to ensure their survival. We tell them... He paused. We tell them that humanity is much more dangerous than we thought. Not because they are aggressive, but because they are prepared. On the screen, Admiral Chen was speaking to someone off camera. Then, she turned back to Thralxis. Your ships are being guided to the coordinates I mentioned. You will wait there while your engineers make repairs. We estimate it will take approximately 3 months for your fleet to be spaceworthy again. During that time, you will be under constant surveillance. Any attempt to escape or attack will result in the destruction of your fleet. Do you understand? I understand. Good. One more thing, Commander. When you return to your empire, I want you to deliver a message. Tell your leaders that Earth is forbidden. Tell them that Sol's system is not to be approached with hostile intent. Tell them that what happened to your fleet will happen to any fleet that comes here. We do not make this threat out of arrogance. We make it out of certainty. Do you understand? I understand, Admiral. Chen nodded. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Repair your ships, Commander. Take your survivors home. And remember what you learned here. The transmission ended. Thralaxis sat in his command chair, surrounded by the ruins of his fleet. Around him, his officers began the long process of damage assessment and repair coordination. But he barely heard them. He was thinking about the lesson he had just learned. Humanity was dangerous, not because of what they were, but because of what they feared. They feared extinction. They feared losing their home, and that fear had driven them to create something truly terrifying. A defense that could not be defeated. A fortress that would stand for as long as humanity existed. The Vraxian Empire had come to Sol to demonstrate its power. Instead, humanity had demonstrated something far more impressive. They had demonstrated that some places in the galaxy were simply too dangerous to attack. Some species were too prepared, too determined, too willing to do whatever it took to survive. Earth was one of those places. Humanity was one of those species. And now, the Vraxian Empire knew it. The entire galaxy would know it soon. No one who entered Sol's system with hostile intent ever left with anything except a story of defeat. And now, Thralaxis was part of that story. He would carry it with him for the rest of his life. A warning to others. A reminder of what happened when you threatened humanity's home. The fortress had awakened. The lesson had been taught, and the galaxy would remember. The Vraxian repair efforts took longer than 3 months. It took almost 5 months of floating in space under the watchful sensors of human weapons. 5 months of working with limited resources to patch holes in hulls and restart dead reactors. 5 months of shame and frustration and growing understanding. Thralaxis spent those months learning everything he could about humanity. The humans had provided basic supplies as promised. Food, water, medical supplies. They had even sent medical teams to help with the wounded. The humans were professional and efficient. They showed no cruelty, but also no sympathy. They did their jobs and left. But they also provided access to human databases. Cultural information, historical records, technical papers. Thralaxis spent hours reading through it all. He needed to understand. He needed to know how a species that seemed so peaceful had built something so terrible. The answer was in their history. Humans had almost destroyed themselves multiple times. They had fought wars with weapons that could have rendered their planet uninhabitable. They had come within minutes of nuclear extinction on several occasions. They had poisoned their own atmosphere, killed billions of their own kind, and driven countless species to extinction through carelessness and greed. But they had survived. They had learned. And when they finally reached the stars and discovered they were not alone, they had made a decision. Never again would they be vulnerable. Never again would their survival depend on the mercy of others. They would make Earth so strong, so well defended, that no external threat could ever destroy them. So they had built the Sol Defense Network. Every government on Earth had contributed. Every corporation, every nation, every group with resources had participated. It had taken decades. The cost had been enormous. But they had done it. They had turned their entire home system into a fortress. And then, once it was complete, they had hidden it. They had disguised the weapons platforms as asteroids. They had made the moon bases look like scientific outposts. They had turned Jupiter Station into a research facility. They had covered everything with civilian infrastructure so that casual observers would see only a peaceful, developing civilization. But underneath, the weapons waited, always waiting, always ready. "It is remarkable," Krelvor said one day. He had been reading the same histories. They built all of this while also building their colony fleets, while expanding into space, while establishing trade relationships with other species. They were doing everything at once. Humans are good at multitasking, Thralxis said. It is one of their survival traits. They can focus on immediate needs while also planning for distant threats. We Vraxians think in terms of current enemies. Humans think in terms of all possible enemies, including ones that do not exist yet. That sounds exhausting. I think it is why they value peace so much. They know what war costs. They have seen it up close. So they prefer diplomacy, trade, cooperation. But they never forget that peace is fragile. They never stop preparing for the day when peace ends. One of Thralxis's tactical officers approached. Commander, I have completed the analysis you requested. The human defensive network, its capabilities, and limitations. Tell me, the defenses are incredibly powerful, but they have a weakness. They are entirely defensive. The weapons can destroy anything that comes into the system, but they cannot project power outside of it. If we had attacked human colonies instead of Earth, we would have faced only their small fleet. Thralxis nodded slowly. Yes, the humans made a choice. They chose to make their homeworld invulnerable, instead of building a force that could conquer others. It is not a choice the Empire would make. We prefer to be able to strike anywhere. But sir, it means we could still attack their colonies. We could take everything they have except Earth. And what would that accomplish? We would gain a dozen colony worlds with a few million humans on them. Meanwhile, Earth would still have billions of humans, and all of their industry. They would rebuild their colonies in a generation. We would have gained nothing except making them hate us forever. Thralxis looked out at the stars. No. We are not attacking human colonies. We are not attacking humans at all. We are going to go home and tell the Council exactly what we found here. We are going to recommend that humanity be left alone. Completely alone. The tactical officer looked troubled. The Council will not accept that recommendation, sir. They will say we are cowards. They will say we allowed a weaker species to defeat us. Then they will be fools. And if they send another fleet to Sol, that fleet will die just as ours nearly did. Perhaps that is what needs to happen. Perhaps the Council needs to lose another fleet before they understand. But Thralxis hoped it would not come to that. He hoped his report would be enough. He hoped that seeing the evidence, hearing the testimony of hundreds of survivors, would convince the Council that some battles were not worth fighting. During the 4th month of repairs, something unexpected happened. A small ship approached from Earth. It was a diplomatic vessel. Unarmed and unescorted, it requested permission to dock with the Eternal Conquest. Thralxis granted permission. What else could he do? He was hardly in a position to refuse. Admiral Chen Wei came aboard in person. She was accompanied by only 2 aides and no guards. Thralxis met her in one of the few undamaged conference rooms on his ship. Admiral, he said formally, I am surprised to see you. We have been communicating remotely for months. Why come in person now? End quote. Because we need to have a conversation that cannot happen over a comm channel. A conversation between warriors who understand each other. Thralxis gestured to the chairs around the table. Please. Sit. Can I offer you anything? Our supplies are limited, but we have water and some food. Water would be fine, thank you. They sat across from each other. Thralxis studied the human admiral. She was small by Vraxian standards, probably not even reaching his chest if they stood side by side. Her hair was gray, her face lined with age. She looked like someone's grandmother, not a military commander who had just destroyed half of his fleet. You did not ask for this meeting just to share water, Thralxis said. No. I came to give you something. Information that is not in the databases we provided. Information that very few people in the galaxy know. Chen paused. I am going to tell you about the Krell swarm. Thralxis felt his scales prickle. Everyone had heard of the Krell swarm. They were a legend. A nightmare story that species told to frighten their young. A plague of insect-like creatures that had swept across the galaxy 300 years ago. devouring everything in their path. Billions had died before the swarm mysteriously disappeared. The Krell are extinct, Thralxis said. They vanished centuries ago. No one knows what happened to them. We know, Chen said quietly. They came to Sol System. Their entire swarm, every ship they had left, came here to consume Earth. They thought humanity would be easy prey, just another species to devour. What happened? The Sol Defense Network destroyed them. Every single Krell ship. 17 billion warriors. Gone in a matter of weeks. We erased them so completely that the rest of the galaxy never even knew they had come here. We just cleaned up the debris and went on with our lives. Thralaxis felt cold. You are saying that humanity single-handedly destroyed the Krell swarm? The same swarm that terrorized half the galaxy? We did not destroy them out of heroism or duty to the galaxy. We destroyed them because they threatened our home. And our defenses did exactly what they were designed to do. The Krell attacked in waves, billions of ships. But our weapons did not tire. Our ammunition did not run out. Our resolve did not falter. We simply kept killing them until there were none left to kill. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what you faced here. The same defenses that destroyed the Krell are what you encountered. Improved, updated, but fundamentally the same. You brought 900 ships. The Krell brought 50,000 times that number. You lasted hours. The Krell lasted weeks. But the result was the same. Both fleets were broken. Both learned that Earth cannot be taken by force. Chen leaned forward. Here is what I need you to understand, Commander. When you go back to your empire, some people will not believe your report. They will think you are exaggerating. They will think that with better tactics, better weapons, better planning, they could succeed where you failed. I am telling you this story so that you can tell them. The greatest military force in known history tried to take Earth, and they died. All of them. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Why not tell everyone this? Why keep it secret? If the galaxy knew that humanity destroyed the Krell, no one would dare attack you. Because we do not want to be feared, Chen said simply. We want to be friends, trading partners, allies. Fear creates resentment. Fear creates enemies. We prefer that people think we are weak and peaceful. It makes it easier to build relationships. And most of the time, we do not need the defenses. Most species are reasonable. They accept no when we say no. They respect our boundaries. It is only the rare, aggressive species that forces us to show our teeth. Like the Vraxian Empire. Like the Vraxian Empire, Chen agreed. But you are not like the Krell. You can learn. You can change. You can go home and tell your people that aggression against humanity is not profitable. That is why I am here. I am giving you the information you need to convince your leaders to leave us alone. Thralexis considered this. And if they do not listen? If they send another fleet? Quote, then we will destroy that fleet too. And another after that. And another after that. Until your empire runs out of ships or runs out of will. We do not want that outcome, Commander. We would prefer to be at peace with the Vraxian Empire, but we will not sacrifice our safety for peace. We learned that lesson too many times in our own history. I will tell them, Thralexis said. I will tell them everything I have seen and everything you have told me, but I cannot guarantee they will listen. I know. Do your best. That is all anyone can ask. Chen stood to leave. Then she paused. One more thing. Your warriors fought bravely. They faced impossible odds, and they kept fighting. I want you to know that we respect that. We respect you. This was not personal. It was just necessary. I understand, Admiral. And I hope that after I make my report, our two species can move past this. Perhaps one day, we can be the allies you spoke of. Perhaps, Chen said. Time will tell. She left the ship. Thralaxes watched her shuttle depart, heading back toward Earth. Such a small person, representing such a dangerous species. It was hard to reconcile. But that was humanity in summary. Small, seemingly weak, easy to underestimate. Until you threatened them. Then, you learned the truth. The repairs were finally completed in the 5th month. The Vraxian fleet was not fully restored. Many ships had damage that could not be fixed without proper shipyard facilities. But they were spaceworthy. They could limp home. That was enough. Thralaxes sent a message to Admiral Chen. We are ready to depart. Thank you for your assistance during our repairs. We will leave the system immediately. Chen's response came quickly. Safe travels, Commander. We hope never to see your fleet again. You will not, Admiral. You have my word. The Vraxian fleet formed up. 427 ships, down from 847. So many dead. So many ships lost. So much pride shattered. But they were going home. They were survivors. And they carried with them the most important cargo of all, a warning for the rest of the galaxy. As the fleet moved toward the hyperspace jump point, Thralaxes took one last look at Earth. The blue planet hung in space, beautiful and peaceful, surrounded by invisible weapons that could shatter fleets, protected by humans who loved their home more than anything else in the universe. It occurred to him that love was a weapon too. Maybe the most powerful weapon of all. The Vraxians fought for glory, for conquest, for the honor of their empire. But humans fought for something much simpler and much stronger. They fought to protect what they loved. And there was no force in the galaxy that could overcome that kind of motivation. All ships ready for hyperspace jump, Krelvor reported. Execute, Thralaxes ordered. The stars stretched. Space twisted. The Vraxian fleet vanished from Sol System, carrying their wounded, and their dead, and their hard-won knowledge. Behind them, Earth continued to turn. Luna Station continued its eternal watch. The weapons platforms in the asteroid belt went back to sleep. Their work done for now. Jupiter Station dimmed its massive arrays. The drones in the outer system returned to their waiting positions. Everything went quiet again. Peaceful. As if nothing had happened. But in the databases, in the memory cores, in the automated systems that never forgot, the battle was recorded. Another fleet had come. Another fleet had been destroyed. Another species had learned the lesson. The counter ticked up by 1. How many fleets had come to Sol over the centuries? How many species had thought they could take Earth? The humans did not advertise the number, but they kept track. Every battle, every victory, every would-be conqueror that had limped away defeated. The Vraxian Empire was just the latest entry in a very long list. Admiral Chen stood in her office on Luna Station, watching the Vraxian fleet disappear from her sensors. Her aide, Commander Mitchell, stood beside her. Do you think they learned? Mitchell asked. Some of them did. Commander Thralaxes did, certainly. Whether his leaders will listen is another question. If they don't, if another Vraxian fleet comes, then we will do what we have always done. We will defend our home. We will survive. We will teach the lesson again, as many times as necessary. We, Chen turned away from the window. That is the burden we carry, Sarah. We must always be ready. We can never let our guard down, because the moment we do, the moment we decide we do not need these defenses anymore, that is when someone will come who forces us to wish we still had them. It seems like a lonely way to exist, always preparing for war while trying to build peace. It is lonely, Chen admitted, but it is also necessary. Our ancestors understood that. They built these defenses not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because they loved Earth and everyone on it too much to risk losing them. We honor their sacrifice by maintaining what they built, by staying vigilant, by never forgetting what we are protecting." She smiled slightly. "Besides, it is not all bad. Most of the time, we do have peace. The defenses just sit here, unused. Most species never come here with hostile intent. Most of our relationships are friendly. The weapons are just insurance. A guarantee that even if everything else fails, Earth will endure." "I hope the Vraxians spread the word," Mitchell said. "So do I, Sarah. So do I." But Chen knew better than to hope too hard. The galaxy was a large place. There were always aggressive species, always empires looking to expand, always someone who thought humanity looked weak enough to conquer. They would keep coming. Every few decades, every few generations, someone would test the defenses of Sol's system. Someone would think they were special, that they were stronger than whoever came before, that they could succeed where others failed. And every time, the defenses would wake up. Every time, the weapons would fire. Every time, Earth would stand unconquered, because that was what humanity had promised themselves back when they were young and afraid and alone in the dark. Never again would their home be threatened. Never again would their species face extinction. Never again. And so far, across 2 centuries and countless challenges, they had kept that promise. They would continue to keep it, no matter what the cost. Earth would endure. Humanity would survive. And the galaxy would remember why you never, ever threatened humanity's home. 6 months after leaving Sol system, Commander Thralaxis stood before the Dominance Council once again. The chamber was the same. The counselors sat in their same elevated positions. But everything else had changed. Thralaxis had changed. The Empire was about to change, whether they knew it or not. "Begin your report, Commander," High Counselor Veshnok said. Her voice still had that same cold edge, but now Thralaxis could hear the uncertainty beneath it. The Council had received preliminary reports. They knew the mission had failed. They knew losses had been catastrophic. But they did not yet understand why. "Honored Counselors," Thralaxis began, "I will provide a full accounting of the Sol system campaign. But first, I must state clearly, and without reservation, the Vraxian Empire should never send military forces to Sol system again. Not now. Not ever. Any fleet we send there will be destroyed." Silence fell over the chamber. Then the counselors began speaking all at once. Voices raised in anger, in disbelief, in accusation. High Counselor Veshnok slammed her hand on her armrest, creating a sharp crack that silenced everyone. "Explain yourself, Commander. You had overwhelming numerical superiority. You had the finest warships in the Empire. How did you manage to lose over 400 vessels to a species with barely any military?" "Because, High Counselor, humanity does not have barely any military. They have the most powerful defensive network ever constructed. They have turned their entire home system into a fortress that has never been defeated. And they have been hiding this fact from the galaxy for 2 centuries. Thralaxis activated the holographic display. Images filled the chamber. The asteroid belt opening to reveal thousands of weapons platforms. The moon firing beams that could destroy dreadnoughts in seconds. Jupiter Station channeling the power of a gas giant into electrical storms. The swarms of autonomous drones that had blocked their escape. These defenses destroyed half my fleet in a matter of hours. If I had not surrendered, they would have destroyed all of it. And they could have continued fighting for months, years if necessary. They have unlimited ammunition, unlimited power, and weapons that predate all galactic armament conventions." One of the counselors leaned forward. "You surrendered? A Vraxian commander? Surrendered? To prey species?" "I surrendered to a superior force," Thralaxis said firmly. "And by doing so, I saved 427 ships and nearly 500,000 warriors. If I had continued fighting, all of them would be dead, and we would have learned nothing. What is there to learn from defeat? Another counselor demanded. Everything, counselor. We learned that humanity is far more dangerous than we believed. We learned that they have been preparing for invasion since they first entered space. We learned that no force we can assemble will ever be sufficient to conquer Earth. And we learned that other species have tried what we tried and failed just as badly. Thralxis brought up another image. This one showed a dense field of wreckage. Pieces of ships from dozens of different civilizations, all floating in the dark spaces beyond Neptune. This is what we found in the outer Sol system. Wreckage from at least 15 different species, some of it centuries old. Every piece represents a fleet that came to Sol with hostile intent. Every piece represents a species that learned the same lesson we did. Some of these species no longer exist. Counselors, the Krell Swarm, the Confederation Armada, the Teleran invasion force, all extinct, all destroyed when they tried to take Earth. The chamber was completely silent now. The counselors were staring at the images, processing what they were seeing. These were not just battle casualties. This was a graveyard of empires. High Counselor Veshnok spoke carefully. You are saying that humanity has been destroying invasion fleets for centuries. Why has no one reported this? Why is this not known throughout the galaxy? Because humanity lets the survivors leave, High Counselor. They repair our ships. They give us supplies. They send us home with a warning to never return. But they do not advertise their victories. They prefer that most species think they are weak and peaceful. It makes diplomacy easier. It is only when someone becomes aggressive that humanity shows what they really are. What are they, Commander? Veshnok asked quietly. Thralaxis chose his words carefully. They are a species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times in their own history. They are a species that knows what extinction looks like because they came close to it before they ever left their planet. They are a species that decided, when they finally reached the stars, that nothing would ever threaten their home again, and they built their defenses to match that determination. He paused. But they are also a species that prefers peace. They are traders, explorers, scientists. They have been good neighbors to dozens of species. They do not seek conquest. They do not want to dominate others. They just want to be left alone to live their lives. And they will do absolutely anything to ensure they can do that. Another counselor spoke up. You speak as if you admire them. I respect them, counselor. There is a difference. I respect any opponent who fights with such effectiveness. And I respect their commitment to their homeworld. Is that not something we can understand? Would we not do the same if our homeworld was threatened? The counselors exchanged glances. The answer was obvious. Of course they would defend their home. The difference was that humanity had succeeded in making their home truly defensible. What do you recommend, Commander? Veshnok asked. I recommend we establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. I recommend we negotiate trade agreements and non-aggression pacts. I recommend we treat them as equals, not as prey. Because they are not prey, High Counselor. They are predators pretending to be prey. And anyone who mistakes them for the latter will pay the price we paid. And if the Council decides to send another fleet? A larger fleet? Better prepared? Thralaxis met her gaze steadily. Then I recommend you send someone else to command it, High Counselor. Because I will not lead warriors to certain death. I have seen what waits in Sol system. I have felt the power of those weapons. I have watched ships that took decades to build, destroyed in seconds. I will not do that again. It was a bold statement, bordering on insubordination. But Thralaxis was beyond caring about protocol. He had lost too many warriors. He had seen too much death. He would not be part of another disaster. To his surprise, Veshnok nodded slowly. Your honesty is appreciated, Commander. We will review your full report and make our decision. You are dismissed. Thralaxis bowed and left the chamber. Outside, Krelvor was waiting. How did it go? His second officer asked. As well as could be expected. They are shocked, angry, confused. But they are listening. That is all I can ask for. Do you think they will try again? I hope not. But the council is full of proud old warriors who have never faced true defeat. They may think they can do better than I did. They may think the humans got lucky. It will take time for the truth to really sink in. Over the following days, Thralaxes gave his full report. He presented sensor logs, combat footage, survivor testimonies. He showed the counselors exactly how outmatched they had been. He walked them through every phase of the battle, explaining how every tactic they tried had been countered, how every weapon they used had been ineffective. He also provided the information Admiral Chen had given him about the Krell swarm. That revelation shook the council to its core. The Krell had been the most feared military force in known history. The fact that humanity had destroyed them completely changed the strategic calculus. While Thralaxes was making his reports, something else was happening. Word was spreading. The Vraxian fleet had thousands of survivors, and warriors talked. In mess halls and barracks across the Empire, stories circulated about the battle, about weapons that could destroy dreadnoughts with single shots, about defensive fields that stopped planet crackers, about humans who had built their home system into something unstoppable. The stories spread beyond the Empire. Traders heard them. Diplomats heard them. Other species began asking questions. What really happened when the Vraxians attacked Earth? How badly had they lost? Was it true that Sol System was some kind of super fortress? The humans said nothing officially, but they did not deny the stories either. When asked, human diplomats would simply smile and say that Earth was well defended, that anyone thinking of threatening humanity should reconsider. The vagueness was intentional. Let the rumors grow. Let the stories spread. Let the galaxy wonder just how powerful humanity really was. 3 months after his initial report, Thralaxes was summoned to the council chamber again. This time, the atmosphere was different. We have completed our analysis, High Counselor Veshnok said. We have reviewed all evidence. We have consulted with military strategists and scientists. We have even reached out to other species to verify some of your claims. And? Thralaxes asked. And you were correct. Several other species confirmed that they had lost ships when they tested humanity's defenses. None wanted to admit the full extent of their losses. But the pattern is clear. Sol System is indeed impregnable. Any attempt to conquer it would be suicidal. Relief flooded through Thralaxes. They had listened. They had understood. Therefore, Veshnok continued, the Dominance Council has decided to withdraw all territorial claims in human space. We will establish diplomatic relations with humanity. We will negotiate trade agreements. And we will issue a formal apology for the invasion attempt. An apology? Thralaxes could not hide his surprise. The Vraxian Empire never apologized. It was not their way. Yes, because we were wrong, Commander. We assessed humanity as weak when they are actually quite strong. We initiated aggression against a peaceful species, and we lost warriors who deserved better leadership than to be sent into an unwinnable battle. For all of that, we must apologize. Veshnok stood, and the other counselors rose with her. You did well, Commander Thralaxes. You saved lives by surrendering when continued fighting would have been pointless. You learned the lesson that needed to be learned, and you had the courage to tell us truths we did not want to hear. The Empire thanks you for your service. Thralaxes bowed deeply. I only did my duty, High Counselor, as did we all. You are dismissed. And Commander, take some time to recover. You have earned it. Thralaxes left the chamber with a weight lifted from his shoulders. It was over. The Empire would not seek revenge. They would not send another fleet. They had learned. That was all he could have hoped for. But his work was not quite done. There was one more thing he needed to do. He composed a message and sent it to Sol System, directed to Admiral Chen Wei. Admiral Chen, this is Commander Thralaxes. I am writing to inform you that the Dominance Council has accepted my recommendations. We will not return to Sol System with hostile intent. We are withdrawing from human space and will pursue diplomatic relations. I wanted to personally thank you for your restraint during our encounter. You could have destroyed my entire fleet. Instead, you gave us a chance to survive and learn. That mercy was not wasted. The lesson has been learned and will be passed on. I hope our species can move forward from this. Perhaps one day we can meet again under better circumstances. Until then, I wish you and your people peace and prosperity. The response came 3 weeks later. Just 3 words. Thank you, Commander. That was all. But it was enough. Far away from Vraxian space, in other parts of the galaxy, other species were having similar conversations. The story of the Vraxian defeat had spread widely. It was being discussed in council chambers, military academies, diplomatic gatherings. Everyone wanted to know. Was it true? Was humanity really that powerful? Some species decided to test it themselves. They sent scout ships to Sol system, carefully avoiding any hostile actions. They observed from a distance. They scanned with passive sensors. They saw enough to convince them that the stories were true. The humans had built something extraordinary, something terrifying. Other species took a different approach. They reached out to humanity with offers of friendship. If you could not conquer them, better to trade with them. Better to be allies than enemies. Human technology was valuable. Human markets were growing. Human culture was interesting. There were many reasons to build good relationships, and the humans accepted these overtures. They welcomed new trading partners. They signed defense pacts. They participated in galactic forums and councils. They became, slowly but surely, a respected member of the galactic community. But they never forgot the lesson they had learned in their early days. They never stopped maintaining their defenses. Every few years, the Sol Defense Network would run exercises, testing its systems, upgrading its technology, ensuring everything still worked. The weapons platforms stayed hidden, but ready. The drones patrolled the outer system. The installations on Luna, Jupiter, Saturn, and beyond remained at alert status, because humanity knew that peace was temporary. They knew that eventually, someone else would test them. Another aggressive species would rise. Another empire would think it could take what it wanted. Another fleet would enter Sol's system with bad intentions. And when that happened, the defenses would be ready. Just as they had always been ready. Just as they always would be ready. Admiral Chen Wei retired 5 years after the Vraxian incident. She was replaced by a younger officer who had served under her and understood the mission. The watch continued. It would always continue. On her last day at Luna Station, Chen stood at the observation window one final time, looking down at Earth. Blue and green and beautiful. Home to billions of people who lived their lives in peace, never knowing how close danger had come, never understanding what silent guardians protected them. Do you think they will ever know? Her aide asked. Commander Mitchell had decided to retire at the same time. They had served together for decades. It seemed right to leave together. The people on Earth? No. Most of them will never know. That is how it should be. Let them live in peace. Let them believe the galaxy is safe and friendly. We carry the burden of vigilance, so they do not have to. Will the defenses ever become obsolete? Will there come a day when we do not need them? Chen considered the question. Maybe. If the galaxy becomes truly peaceful, if every species decides that cooperation is better than conquest, if war becomes a thing of the past, but I do not think that day will come in our lifetime. Maybe not in any lifetime. The universe is too big, too diverse, too full of different perspectives and goals. There will always be conflict. There will always be someone who thinks violence is the answer. So the watch continues forever. The watch continues forever, Chen agreed. It is not the future I would have chosen, but it is the future we have. and we make the best of it. She turned away from the window. Come on, Sarah. Let's go home. Others will take over from here. Our part is done. 8. They left Luna Station together, taking a shuttle down to Earth. As they descended through the atmosphere, Chen looked up one last time at the station and the moon it orbited. Up there, weapons waited in silence. Weapons built by humans who had been afraid and determined in equal measure. Weapons that had saved Earth time and time again. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. The shuttle touched down at a spaceport in North America. Chen and Mitchell walked out into sunlight and fresh air. People moved around them, going about their daily business. Families, workers, students, all of them safe, all of them protected by defenses they would never see. That was the way it should be. Somewhere in the galaxy, a young species was developing faster than light travel. They were taking their first tentative steps into the void. They were discovering that they were not alone. They were beginning to wonder what else was out there. What opportunities? What threats? Some of them would become traders. Some would become explorers. Some would become diplomats. And some, inevitably, would become warriors. They would look at the stars and see not neighbors, but targets. They would think of conquest and empire. They would identify species that looked weak, species that could be subjugated. Eventually, their eyes would turn toward Sol, toward Earth, toward humanity. And they would learn what every other aggressive species had learned. Some places in the galaxy were not meant to be conquered. Some species were far more dangerous than they appeared. Some homes were worth defending at any cost. The Sol Defense Network would be waiting, patient and eternal, ready to teach the lesson one more time. Because that was what it had been built for. Because that was what humanity had promised themselves. Never again would Earth fall. Never again would humanity face extinction. Never again. And in the cold mathematics of orbital mechanics and weapon trajectories, in the silent processors of autonomous drones and targeting computers, in the massive power cores that drew energy from the sun itself, that promise lived on. Generation after generation. Century after century. The watch continued. Earth endured, and the galaxy remembered. They entered the Sol system. Hundreds of fleets, over hundreds of years. Thousands of ships, carrying millions of warriors. All of them came with dreams of conquest. All of them came with certainty of victory, and not a soul came back with the story of success. Only defeat. Only warnings. Only the knowledge that humanity's home was forbidden ground. The title became a saying, a proverb, a warning passed down through the ages. They entered the Sol system, and not a soul came back with the story. It meant, some battles cannot be won. Some places cannot be taken. Some species cannot be conquered. It meant, humanity is dangerous. Not because they seek war, but because they will do anything to avoid extinction. It meant, leave Earth alone. For your own sake, for your species' sake, leave Earth alone. And slowly, over time, the galaxy learned. Fewer fleets came. Fewer species tested the defenses. Fewer warriors died in the cold void around a blue planet that refused to fall. Peace grew. Not because everyone became peaceful, but because everyone learned where the boundaries were. What lines should not be crossed. What species should not be threatened. And in that peace, humanity thrived. They spread to the stars. They built new worlds. They made friends across the galaxy. They became known not as warriors but as explorers, scientists, artists, philosophers, but they never forgot what they had built. They never dismantled the defenses. They never stopped watching the sky, because they knew the truth that their ancestors had learned. Peace is precious. Peace is valuable. Peace is worth everything. But peace must be defended, and humanity would defend it forever. That was the promise. That was the lesson. They entered the Sol system, and not a soul came back with the story of victory. Only survival. Only knowledge. Only respect. And that was enough.
The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling that showed the swirling colors of the galaxy beyond. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their designated areas, each species keeping to their own kind. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Commander Zektar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His thick gray skin was not made for the cold atmosphere that most species preferred. The Vorthak were a young race, barely 300 years into space travel. They had earned their place on the council through military might and stubborn determination. But there were still so many things about galactic society that confused him. "The motion to establish mining rights in the Kepler sector is approved," announced Elder Thisara, her crystalline body catching the light from a dozen different angles. The ethereals had been the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel, and they still acted like they owned the galaxy. "Are there any other matters to discuss?" Zektar stood up. His massive frame cast a shadow across several smaller delegates. "I have a question." The hall fell silent. Young species rarely spoke during council sessions. They were expected to listen and learn. "Speak," Elder Thisara said, though her tone suggested she would rather he didn't. "The Sol System," Zektar began. "Why is it forbidden? My people have been members of this council for 50 years and we still don't understand this rule." A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. Some delegates turned to look at Zektar with expressions that ranged from surprise to fear. Others simply stared at their hands or tentacles or whatever they used for manipulating objects. "The rule exists for good reason," said Hive Mind Node 7 of the collective. The speaker looked like a normal humanoid, but Zektar knew it was just one body controlled by billions of minds working together. "It has kept the galaxy safe for 3,000 years. Safe from what?" Zektar pressed. "The records show that humans went into something called the Great Sleep long ago. But there are no details, no explanations, just warnings to stay away." An elderly member of the Luminous floated forward. These beings were pure energy held together by technology that no one else understood. When they spoke, their voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to share," the Luminous said. "Some mistakes are too terrible to repeat." "But that's not an answer," Zektar replied. "My people are warriors. We don't fear the unknown. We conquer it. If there's a threat in the Sol system, tell us what it is. Let us help you deal with it." This caused an even bigger stir. Several delegates started talking at once. The translation devices couldn't keep up with all the overlapping conversations. "Silence!" Elder Thisara's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "The Sol system is off limits. This rule is absolute. It is not up for debate." "Why?" Zektar demanded. "What aren't you telling us?" For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a new voice joined the conversation. It came from the communication system itself, artificial and cold. "Watcher Network Node 1 speaking," the voice announced. "Commander Zektar of the Vorthak Empire. Your questions approach forbidden territory. Continued pursuit of this topic will result in sanctions against your species." Zektar had heard of the Watchers, but had never spoken to one directly. These artificial intelligences monitored the Sol system constantly. They sent warnings to any ship that came too close. They also seemed to have unlimited access to galactic communication networks, which should have been impossible. "Who built you?" Zektar asked. "Who gave you the authority to threaten member species of this council?" "That information is classified," the Watcher replied. "Return to your designated topics of discussion." The AI's dismissal sparked anger in Zektar's chest. His people had fought for their place in galactic society. They had earned the right to ask questions. We joined this council as equals, he said, his voice growing louder, not as children to be protected from scary stories. Elder Thisara rose from her seat. Her crystalline body began to glow with internal light, a sign that she was becoming agitated. "Commander, you don't understand what you're asking about," she said. "The last time humans were awake, they nearly destroyed everything. The war that followed changed the galaxy forever." "What war?" Zektar asked. "There's no record of any war involving humans." "Because we made sure there wouldn't be," Hive Mind Node 7 said quietly. "Some memories are too dangerous to preserve." The luminous delegate drifted closer to Zektar. "Young Commander, your species is brave and strong. But bravery without wisdom leads to disaster. The humans taught us that lesson in the most painful way possible." "Tell me what happened," Zektar said. "I'm tired of riddles and warnings. Give me facts." The three elder species exchanged glances. Even without being able to read their alien expressions, Zektar could tell they were communicating in ways he couldn't detect. "Very well," Elder Thisara said finally, "but understand that what we tell you must never leave this chamber, and your species must swear to uphold the soul system prohibition no matter what." Zektar nodded eagerly. 3,000 years ago, humans were awake and active in galactic society, the ethereal began. They were relatively new to space travel, much like your people are now. At first they seemed harmless enough. Curious, energetic, but not particularly threatening. "What changed?" Zektar asked. "We did," Hive Mind Node 7 admitted. "The elder races made a mistake. We tried to guide them, to shape their development. We thought we knew better." The Luminous took over the story. "Humans didn't respond to guidance the way other species do. When we tried to limit their expansion, they found ways around our restrictions. When we tried to share our knowledge gradually, they learned everything we taught them and improved upon it." "That sounds like good traits for a species to have," Zektar observed. "In moderation, yes," Elder Thisara said, "but humans don't do anything in moderation. When they decide to accomplish something, they throw everything they have at the problem. Their entire species, their entire civilization, all focused on a single goal. And when we finally pushed them too far," the Luminous continued, "that goal became our destruction." Zektar felt a chill run down his spine. "What did you do to them?" "The ethereals tried to pacify one of their colony worlds. Hive Mind Node 7 explained. "We thought if we could reduce their aggression, make them more peaceful, it would benefit everyone. The humans saw it as an attack on their free will," Elder Thisara said. "They developed weapons specifically designed to kill ethereals. Weapons that turned our own psychic abilities against us. In 6 months, they wiped out 17 of our worlds. The collective attempted to contain them by assimilating their border colonies," Node 7 continued. "We thought bringing them into our hive mind would calm their violent tendencies. Instead, they created a virus that nearly destroyed our entire network," the AI admitted. "Billions of minds lost in an instant. The collective still hasn't fully recovered." Zektar looked at the Luminous representative. "And your people?" "We tried to reason with them," the energy being said sadly. "We offered them technology, knowledge, anything they wanted if they would just stop fighting. They took everything we offered," Elder Thisara said, "and used it to build weapons we had never imagined, planet killers that could destroy entire star systems." The hall had become completely silent. Even the usual background noise of the translation devices had stopped. "How did you stop them?" Zektar asked quietly. "We didn't," Hive Mind Node 7 said. "They stopped themselves. The war had been going on for decades," the Luminous explained. "Billions were dead on all sides. The galaxy was burning. And then, suddenly, the humans sent a message to all elder races." "What did it say?" Zektar whispered. "We're tired," Elder Thisara quoted. "That's all. Just those 2 words." They proposed the Great Sleep, Node 7 continued. They would put their entire species into stasis. In exchange, we would preserve their worlds and their civilization. When they woke up, we would try again to coexist peacefully. And you agreed? Zektar asked. What choice did we have? The Luminous said. The alternative was the complete destruction of galactic civilization. But that was 3,000 years ago, Zektar pointed out. Surely they've changed by now. Surely they've learned from their mistakes. The three elder representatives looked at each other again. That's what we're hoping, Elder Thisara said quietly. But we don't know, and we're too afraid to find out. The Watchers monitor the Sol system constantly, Node 7 explained. If the humans ever start to wake up naturally, we'll have, warning, time to prepare. Prepare for what? Zektar asked. War, the Luminous said simply. Or evacuation. We haven't decided which would be better. Zektar sat back down heavily. This was not what he had expected to learn. So the greatest military threat in galactic history is just sleeping? Yes, Elder Thisara confirmed, and we intend to keep it that way. What if someone accidentally wakes them up? Zektar asked. That's why the Watchers exist, Node 7 said. That's why we have the prohibition. That's why any ship that even approaches the Sol system is immediately intercepted and turned away. What would happen if someone did? Zektar pressed. Silence fell over the chamber again. This time it lasted for several minutes. We don't know, Elder Thisara finally admitted, but we pray to our gods that we never have to find out. The council session ended shortly after that. As delegates began filing out of the Great Hall, Zektar remained in his seat, thinking about what he had learned. The humans were sleeping. They had been sleeping for 3,000 years, and the entire galaxy lived in fear of the day they might wake up. He thought about his own people, the Vorthak. They were proud warriors who had fought their way to the stars. They feared nothing and no one. But even they had never faced an entire species that could make the elder races tremble with just the memory of past conflicts. As he finally stood to leave, Zektar made a mental note to review everything the Vorthak archives contained about humans. If these sleeping giants ever did wake up, he wanted his people to be ready. Behind him, the Great Hall's lights began to dim. In the distance, the Watchers continued their silent vigil over a system that held either the galaxy's greatest threat or its greatest hope. No one was quite sure which. Captain Vexilon cursed in 3 different languages as another explosion rocked his ship. The Bone Crusher was a Korthak hegemony raider, built for speed and intimidation rather than durability. Right now, both were failing him spectacularly. Engineering. Report! He shouted over the alarm klaxons that filled the bridge with their horrible wailing. Hyperdrive core is cracked, Captain, reported his chief engineer, a scarred veteran named Griktos. We're bleeding exotic matter all over space. If we don't shut it down soon, the whole ship will implode. Vexilon's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. Behind them, a fleet of Nexari patrol ships was closing fast. The raid on their mining station had been a disaster from the start. The Nexari had been better prepared than expected, and the Korthak raiders had barely escaped with their lives. How long until the hyperdrive fails completely? Vexilon asked. Maybe 10 minutes, Griktos replied. Maybe less. The captain's claws drummed against his command chair. The Korthak were a predator species, evolved from pack hunters on a hostile world. They understood survival instincts better than most. Right now, those instincts were screaming at him to run. Plot a jump to any system, he ordered. I don't care where. Just get us away from the Nexari. His navigator, a young female named Sixara, worked frantically at her console. Sir, the hyperdrive is too unstable for precise navigation. We could end up anywhere within a 50 light-year radius. Better than ending up dead, Vexilon growled. Do it! The ship lurched as another piece of equipment exploded somewhere in the engineering section. On the tactical display, the Nexari ships were getting closer. Their weapons would be in range in less than 5 minutes. "Hyperdrive spun up, Captain," Sixara reported. "But sir, I'm getting some kind of interference. There's something wrong with the navigation computer." "Wrong how?" "It keeps trying to plot a course to a specific system," she said, confusion clear in her voice. "The computer won't accept any other destination." Vexilon moved to look over her shoulder. The navigation display showed a course leading to a small, unremarkable star system. According to the charts, it contained several planets but no intelligent life. "Where is that?" he asked. Sixara checked the star charts. "The locals call it Sol. It's listed as off-limits, but there's no explanation why." Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. The hyperdrive was about to fail catastrophically. "Captain!" Grictos called out. "We need to jump now or we're all dead." Vexilon looked at the approaching Nexari fleet, then at the mysterious system on the navigation display. In Korthak culture, a warrior faced death head-on rather than running from it. But a smart warrior also knew when to live to fight another day. "Jump," he ordered. The Bone Crusher vanished from normal space, just as the Nexari weapons opened fire. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the usual humming of the hyperdrive. Then the ship began to shake violently. "What's happening?" Vexilon demanded. "The hyperdrive is tearing itself apart," Grictos reported. "We're going to drop out of hyperspace whether we want to or not." "How long?" 30 seconds. Vexilon grabbed the nearest safety restraint as the ship bucked like a wild animal. Through the bridge windows, he could see the weird colors of hyperspace beginning to fade. "All hands, brace for emergency exit," he announced over the ship's communication system. The Bone Crusher dropped back into normal space with a violence that sent half the crew flying. Sparks erupted from overloaded circuits. Emergency lighting cast everything in a hellish red glow. "Damage report," Vexilon called out as soon as he could speak again. "Hyperdrive is completely dead," Grictos said. "Life support is stable, but weapons and shields are offline. We're basically flying in a straight line until we hit something." "Where are we?" the captain asked. Sixara was already working on that question. "The Sol system, sir, just like the computer predicted." Vexilon looked at the main screen, which showed a yellow star surrounded by several planets. It looked peaceful enough. "I thought you said this system was off-limits." "It is, sir, but I don't see any patrol ships or defense platforms." That was when the first warning message arrived. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space," said a voice that was clearly artificial. "Turn around immediately and leave this system." "Who is this?" Vexilon responded. "This is Watcher Network Node 47. You are in violation of Galactic Treaty 777. Depart immediately or face consequences." The captain laughed bitterly. "Our hyperdrive is dead. We're not going anywhere." A pause. Then, "Scanning your vessel. Confirmed hyperdrive failure. Dispatching containment units." "Containment units?" Sixara asked nervously. Her question was answered when a dozen sleek silver ships appeared on their sensors. They moved with a precision that no living pilot could match. "Unknown vessel, you will be escorted to the edge of the system for emergency repairs," the Watcher announced. "Any attempt to approach the inner planets will result in your destruction." Vexilon studied the approaching ships. They were smaller than the Bone Crusher, but there were a lot of them, and his weapons were offline. "Understood," he said. "We'll cooperate." But as the Watcher ships moved into escort formation, one of them suddenly veered off course. Sparks flew from its hull as internal systems failed. "Node 47 to all units," the AI announced, its voice now carrying a note of concern. "I'm detecting cascade failures in units 12 through 18. Unknown cause." More Watcher ships began to malfunction. Some simply stopped moving. Others started spinning out of control. "What's happening to them?" Sixara asked. Grictos looked up from his engineering console with a worried expression. "Sir, I think it's our fault. The exotic matter leak from our hyperdrive is interfering with their systems. Vexilon watched as another Watcher ship went dark. How long before they recover? Unknown, sir. This kind of interference could last for hours or days. The AI seemed to have reached the same conclusion. Unknown vessel, your presence is causing system-wide failures. You will be destroyed to prevent further contamination. The remaining functional Watcher ships turned toward the Bone Crusher with obvious hostile intent. Sir, Sixera called out urgently. I'm reading massive gravity wells. Ahead, it's the third planet in the system. If we can reach its atmosphere, the Watchers won't be able to follow us down. Why not? They're designed for space operations only, too fragile for atmospheric flight. Vexilon made a quick decision. All power to engines. Take us down. The Bone Crusher accelerated toward the blue-green world ahead of them. Behind them, the Watcher ships opened fire, but most of their shots went wide. The exotic matter interference was affecting their targeting. Systems 2, entering atmosphere, Sixara reported. Sir, I don't think our heat shields can handle this kind of descent. Do what you can, Vexilon ordered. The ship screamed through the atmosphere like a falling star. Outside the bridge windows, everything was fire and smoke. Hull plates began to buckle under the stress. Find us a place to land, the captain shouted. There, Sixara pointed at a large continent below them. That looks like open ground. The Bone Crusher hit the surface with enough force to create a crater. The impact threw everyone on the bridge against their restraints. Systems that had survived, the hyperspace accident finally gave up and died. For a long moment, the only sound was the settling of twisted metal and the hiss of escaping gases. Is everyone alive? Vexilon asked. Weak voices answered from around the bridge. They had survived, but barely. Grictos worked at his damaged console. Sir, the impact has triggered some kind of automated response. I'm reading massive power signatures all across the planet. What kind of power signatures? Unknown. But whatever's generating them was sleeping until we crashed. High above them, the remaining Watcher ships had stopped their attack. Instead, they were broadcasting the same message over and over again on all frequencies. Emergency alert to all. Galactic civilizations, the artificial voice announced. Containment breach in the Sol system. The sleepers are beginning to wake. All species implement emergency exodus protocols immediately. This is not a drill. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, in vast chambers that stretched for thousands of miles, machines that had been dormant for 3,000 years suddenly came to life. Lights flickered on in endless rows. Computers began running diagnostic programs. And slowly, very slowly, billions of stasis pods started their warming cycles. Vexilon had no idea what he had just set in motion. He was focused on keeping his crew alive on an alien world. But across the galaxy, entire civilizations were about to receive the most terrifying news possible. The humans were waking up. In the first stasis facility to come online, a pod near the center of the complex began to hiss as its occupant stirred. The nameplate on the pod read, Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist. She had gone to sleep 3,000 years ago, believing she would wake up in a few hundred years to a healed world. She had no idea that her awakening would change everything. Dr. Sarah Chen's first sensation upon waking was cold, bone-deep, aching cold that made her teeth chatter before her eyes had even opened. The second sensation was confusion. The stasis pod was supposed to wake her gently, with warm air and soft lights. Instead, she felt like she had been dumped into an ice bath. She forced her eyes open and immediately regretted it. Bright white lights blazed overhead, making her head pound. Emergency alarms were blaring somewhere in the distance, and she could hear the hum of machinery working overtime. Status report, she croaked, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Chen, you are experiencing an emergency wake-up sequence, replied the computer's calm voice. Please remain calm while systems come online. Emergency wake-up. Sarah tried to remember why that would happen. The stasis program was designed to last for 200 years while Earth recovered from the ecological disasters of the late 21st century. She had been one of 10,000 volunteers who had agreed to sleep through the worst of the climate crisis and wake up when the planet was habitable again. How long was I asleep? She asked. 3,047 years, 6 months, and 12 days, the computer replied. Sarah's blood went cold for reasons that had nothing to do with the temperature. That's impossible. Confirming data. You entered stasis on March 15th, 2157. Current date is September 27th, 5204. 3,000 years. She had been asleep for 3,000 years. Where is everyone else? She asked, struggling to sit up in the pod. Mass awakening protocol is in progress. Estimated completion time for full facility revival is 72 hours. Sarah looked around the chamber for the first time. What she saw made her gasp. The stasis facility she remembered had contained 10,000 pods arranged in neat rows. The chamber she was in now seemed to stretch forever in all directions. Instead of 10,000 pods, there were millions, maybe billions. Computer. How? Many people are in stasis? Current population of Earth stasis facilities, 4.7 billion individuals. Sarah's mind reeled. When she had gone to sleep, Earth's population had been around 8 billion. Even accounting for the ecological disasters, there should have been more people awake than asleep. What happened to the rest of the population? Data restricted. Please report to Command Center Alpha for briefing. The pod finally finished its wake-up cycle and opened completely. Sarah stepped out on unsteady legs and found a set of clothes waiting for her. They were simple gray coveralls, but they fit perfectly. As she dressed, she noticed that her body felt different, stronger, healthier than she had been when she entered stasis. Computer, have I been medically treated during stasis? Affirmative. Standard life extension and genetic repair treatments have been applied. Your biological age has been reset to 25 years. That explained why she felt so good despite sleeping for 3 millennia. But it raised new questions. The technology for genetic repair had been experimental when she went to sleep. How had it become standard? Sarah made her way through corridors, filled with other newly awakened people. They all looked confused and scared. Many were asking the same questions she had asked. How long had they been asleep? Why were they waking up now? What had happened to the world? Command Center Alpha turned out to be a massive room filled with screens and control stations. Most of the equipment looked far more advanced than what Sarah remembered from her time. A few dozen people were already there, all wearing the same gray coveralls. Dr. Chen? A tall man with dark skin approached her. I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, formerly of the Mars Colonial Project. I woke up about an hour ago. Mars Colonial Project? Sarah remembered that program. It had been in the early planning stages when she entered stasis. Did we actually colonize Mars? According to the computer, yes, along with dozens of other worlds. Marcus gestured at one of the large screens. The solar system is apparently full of human colonies now. Sarah looked at the display and felt her jaw drop. The screen showed a 3-dimensional map of the solar system. Mars had several large cities marked on its surface. The asteroid belt was crisscrossed with mining stations and habitats. Even Jupiter's moons showed signs of human habitation. How is this possible? She whispered. That's what we're trying to figure out, said another voice. Sarah turned to see a woman with short blonde hair walking toward them. I'm Captain Linda Torres, formerly of the Earth Defense Force, though I'm not sure what I'm defending against after 3,000 years. More awakened humans gathered around them. Sarah listened as they shared their stories. A scientist from the Antarctic Research Station, an engineer from the Lunar Gateway Project, a diplomat who had been working on first contact protocols for when humanity eventually met alien life. Wait, Sarah said suddenly. First contact protocols? Did we ever meet aliens? The question hung in the air for a moment before the computer's voice filled the room. Data regarding extraterrestrial contact is restricted pending security clearance verification. Security clearance? Captain Torres demanded. From who? Who's been running things while we were asleep? Earth has been administered by the automated governance system for the past 3,000 years. All major decisions have been made in accordance with pre-stasis directives. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Computer, show us current Earth conditions. The main screen changed to show a view of Earth from orbit. What Sarah saw took her breath away. The planet was beautiful. Oceans sparkled blue and clear. Continents were covered in green forests and grasslands. Cities dotted the landscape, but they looked different from what she remembered. Cleaner, more organic, like they had grown rather than been built. It's perfect, Marcus whispered. Too perfect, Torres said grimly. Where are all the people? Current surface population of Earth, 0, the computer announced. The room fell silent. Sarah stared at the screen showing the empty paradise above them. Computer, what happened to the people who didn't enter stasis? Data restricted. Why? Is everything restricted? Torres shouted. Security protocols are in place pending proper authorization. Please wait for administrative personnel to arrive. What administrative personnel? Sarah asked. Before the computer could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as emergency warnings scrolled across every screen. Attention all personnel, the computer announced. Unknown alien contact has been detected on the surface. First contact protocols are now in effect. Sarah exchanged glances with the others. Aliens? Here? The main screen switched to a surface view. In the distance, smoke was rising from what looked like a crash site. As they watched, shapes began moving around the wreckage. Those don't look human, Marcus observed. Captain Torres stepped forward, her military training taking over. Computer, do we have any weapons? Negative. Earth has been a demilitarized zone for 3,000 years. Demilitarized by who? Torres. Demanded. Data restricted. Another screen lit up, showing what appeared to be a news broadcast. But the language wasn't English, or any human language Sarah recognized. The images showed massive space fleets moving through star systems, whole planets being evacuated, panic in the streets of alien cities. Computer, translate that broadcast. Translation. Follows. Emergency bulletin from the Galactic Council. Containment breach confirmed in the Sol system. Human awakening detected. All civilizations initiate exodus protocols immediately. Repeat, the humans are waking up. This is not a drill. The room erupted in confused voices as everyone tried to talk at once. Sarah raised her hand for silence. Computer, she said carefully. Are we considered a threat by these alien civilizations? Data indicates that humanity's awakening has caused significant concern among galactic governments. Why would they be afraid of us? Data restricted pending security clearance. Torres slammed her fist against a control panel. Enough with the restrictions. People are scared and confused, and we need answers. Dr. Chen, Marcus said quietly. Look at this. He was standing in front of a terminal that showed personnel, files. Sarah joined him and saw her own file displayed on the screen. But there was additional information she didn't remember authorizing. Genetic modifications, combat training, tactical analysis scores. She read aloud. Marcus, I was a xenobiologist studying plant genetics. Why would I have combat training scores? Marcus pulled up his own file. Same here. According to this, I'm certified in zero-gravity warfare and advanced weapons systems. But I was a terraforming engineer. One by one, the other awakened humans checked their files. Every single person had been modified, trained, and enhanced during their time in stasis. They were no longer the same people who had gone to sleep 3,000 years ago. Computer, Sarah said, her voice shaking. What were we being prepared for? Defense of human space against potential threats. What threats? Data indicates a 97.3% probability of hostile first contact scenarios based on historical precedent. Captain Torres looked up from her own file. Historical precedent? Computer? Have humans fought aliens before? A long pause. Then, affirmative. Previous conflict resulted in mutual ceasefire agreement and human voluntary stasis program. The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. They hadn't gone to sleep to wait out climate change. They had gone to sleep to end a war. We were the threat, she whispered. The aliens weren't afraid of meeting us. They were afraid of us waking up. The main screen showed the crash site again. This time, they could see the aliens more clearly. They looked reptilian, with gray skin and multiple eyes. They seemed to be injured and trying to repair their ship. Computer, are those aliens hostile? Current alien presence appears to be accidental. However, their ship's crash landing has triggered automatic awakening protocols across all facilities. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. We need to help them. Help them? Torres asked incredulously. Sarah, if what the computer is saying is true, we fought a war. Against aliens. They might be our enemies. Look at them. Sarah pointed at the screen. They're hurt and stranded. If we're going to break 3,000 years of hostility, we have to start somewhere. She turned to address the room. I know this is confusing and scary. We all woke up in a different world than we expected. But we have a choice. We can be the same people who apparently scared the entire galaxy into hiding, or we can be something better. And if they try to kill us? Torres asked. Sarah looked at her enhanced personnel file, with its combat training and tactical scores. She didn't remember earning. Then I guess we'll find out why the galaxy was so afraid of us in the first place. The computer's voice interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Chen, incoming priority message from Galactic Council. Put it through. The screen flickered, then showed an alien face. It was crystalline, with light moving through its transparent features. When it spoke, the translation software made its voice sound ancient and tired. Humans of Earth. The alien said, This is Elder Thisara of the Ethereal Collective. We know you are awakening. We know our people have made contact. We ask that you remember the peace we built together. Please do not let old hatreds destroy what took so long to create. The transmission ended, leaving the humans staring at a blank screen. Old hatreds, Marcus repeated. What did we do to them? Sarah was already moving toward the exit. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And I'm going to make sure we do better this time. As she left the command center, Sarah didn't know that billions of other humans were waking up across the planet. She didn't know that fleets of alien ships were already fleeing to the edges of the galaxy. And she didn't know that the choice she was about to make would determine whether humanity would be welcomed back into galactic society or whether the entire galaxy would unite to destroy them before they could become a threat again. All she knew was that somewhere on the surface, injured aliens needed help, and she was going to give it to them no matter what the consequences might be. The journey to the surface took Sarah and her small team through corridors that told the story of 3,000 years in sleeping humanity. Automated systems had maintained everything perfectly. Gardens flourished under artificial suns. Libraries contained the accumulated knowledge of human civilization, constantly updated by AI systems that never slept. Captain Torres walked beside Sarah, along with Marcus and 3 other awakened humans who had volunteered to make first contact. They rode in a transport vehicle that moved through underground tunnels at incredible speed. Dr. Chen, Torres said quietly, I've been thinking about our files, the combat training, the enhancements. What if we're not the same people we used to be? Sarah had been wondering the same thing. She felt different, stronger, faster, more alert than she remembered being. When she moved, it was with a precision and grace that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her muscle memory. The training programs would have been designed to preserve our personalities, she replied. We're still us. Just more capable. More dangerous, you mean? Sarah nodded grimly. Maybe. But that's exactly why we need to prove we can be trusted. The transport emerged onto the surface through a hidden entrance disguised as a hill. Sarah's first breath of Earth air in 3,000 years was sweet and clean. The sky was a perfect blue dotted with white clouds. In the distance, she could see a forest that looked like something from a fairy tale. It really is paradise, Marcus murmured. An empty paradise, Torres reminded him. Computer, where is everyone who was living on the surface when we went to sleep? Data restricted. Torres cursed under her breath. I'm getting really tired of hearing that. They found the crash site about 2 miles from their emergence point. The alien ship had carved a deep furrow in the ground before coming to rest in a grove of trees. Smoke was still rising from its damaged hull. Biosigns indicate 5 survivors, Sarah's enhanced senses told her, though she wasn't sure how she knew that. 2 are seriously injured. As they approached the wreckage, they could hear voices speaking in an alien language. The translation software in their heads provided a running commentary. The hyperdrive core is completely destroyed, one voice was saying. We're stranded here. What about the distress beacon? Asked another. I activated it, but who's going? To come. Every ship in the galaxy is probably fleeing from us right now. Sarah stepped into view, her hands raised to show she was unarmed. We're here to help. The aliens reacted with immediate panic. These were the Korthak, she realized, matching. Their appearance to data files she somehow had access to. Predator species, evolved from pack hunters. Dangerous, but honorable according to their cultural profile. The largest of the aliens, wearing what appeared to be a captain's uniform, moved protectively in front of his injured crewmates, his 4 eyes fixed on Sarah with a mixture of fear and defiance. Stay back, human, he growled. We know what your species is capable of. So do I, apparently, Sarah said calmly. But right now, I'm more interested in what we're capable of becoming. She gestured to Marcus, who was carrying a medical kit. We have supplies that can help your injured. We're not here to fight. Korthak Captain's eyes narrowed. You're not going to take us prisoner? Interrogate us? Use us as examples to the galaxy? Why would we do that? Torres asked, stepping up beside Sarah. Because that's what humans do, the captain replied. You take whatever serves your purposes and destroy everything else. Sarah felt a chill at the certainty in his voice. What's your name, Captain? Vexilon of the Korthak hegemony. Captain Vexilon, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and I'm going to ask you something that might sound strange. What do you know about human history? Vexilon's expression became puzzled. Human? History? You were the greatest military power the galaxy had ever seen. Your wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization. When you finally agreed to the Great Sleep, every species in the galaxy breathed a sigh of relief. What wars? Marcus asked. We don't remember any wars. Don't remember? Vexilon's 4 eyes widened. The ethereal pacification campaigns? The collective virus wars? The destruction of the Titan Nebula? Sarah shook her head. We don't know what you're talking about. We went to sleep to avoid a climate crisis on Earth. We were supposed to wake up in 200 years. For a long moment, Vexilon just stared at them. Then he began to laugh, a harsh sound that held no humor. They wiped your memories, he said. The elder races actually managed to erase your own history. That's impossible, Torres protested. Is it? Vexilon challenged. You wake up with combat skills you don't remember learning. Your planet is empty but perfectly maintained. Your own computer won't tell you what happened to your people. What does that suggest to you? Sarah felt pieces of a terrible puzzle clicking into place. Computer, access planetary archives. Historical files for the years 2157 to 2200. Data restricted pending security clearance. Override restriction. Emergency protocols are in effect. Insufficient authorization level. Torres stepped forward. Computer, I'm Captain Linda Torres, Earth Defense Force. My clearance level should grant access to military historical records. Accessing. Clearance verified. Warning. The following information has been classified as potentially harmful to human psychological stability. Show us anyway, Sarah said. The air above them shimmered as holographic displays activated. What they saw made Sarah's blood run cold. The record showed a different version of human history than the one they remembered. In this version, humanity had encountered aliens in 2159, just 2 years after the stasis program began. First contact had gone badly. Very badly. The ethereals attempted to telepathically pacify human colonies on Europa and Titan. The computer's voice narrated as images played in the air. Humans interpreted this as an attack on their free will and responded with extreme prejudice. The hollows showed human fleets attacking crystalline ships, using weapons that seemed designed specifically to cause pain to telepathic beings. When the collective attempted to assimilate the Mars colonies, the computer continued, humans developed the hive killer virus. Estimated casualties, 14 billion collective drones. More images. Massive hive ships going dark as they're interconnected. Minds were severed. Sarah felt sick watching it. The final phase of the human wars began when the Luminous attempted to negotiate a peace treaty, the computer said. Humans used the negotiation as an opportunity to capture and study luminous energy beings. The knowledge gained was used to develop stellar disruption weapons. The last image showed a star going nova, taking an entire solar system with it. Total confirmed casualties of the human wars, the computer concluded. Approximately 700 billion sentient beings across 47 star systems. Silence fell over the group. Sarah stared at the empty air where the hollows had been, trying to process what she had just learned. 700 billion, Marcus whispered. Vexilon was watching them carefully. Now you understand why the galaxy fears you, why entire fleets are fleeing at the news of your awakening. But we didn't do those things, Torres protested. We were asleep. The humans who did those things were asleep too, Vexilon pointed out. You're the same species, the same people, enhanced and trained for war. Sarah looked at her hands. Enhanced hands that could probably snap a normal human's neck without effort. Computer, were our memories altered before we were put into stasis? Affirmative. Traumatic memories of the human wars were suppressed to prevent psychological damage during extended stasis. What about the people who were awake during the wars? All active human population voluntarily entered stasis following the Treaty of Silence. Surface population was evacuated to orbital habitats, which were subsequently moved to the outer solar system. So everyone who remembered the wars went to sleep, Sarah said slowly. And everyone who wakes up now has no memory of what we did. It was considered the only way to give humanity a chance to change, the computer explained. To wake up as potentially different people. Vexilon gestured to his injured crewmates. So what happens now? Do you help us, knowing that my people might try to kill you the moment they think you're a threat again? Sarah looked at the wounded aliens, then at her own people. Captain Torres was still processing the historical records. Marcus was staring at his hands the same way Sarah had, wondering what they were capable of. Marcus, she said quietly, give me the medical kit. Sarah, Torres warned, this could be a mistake. Maybe, Sarah agreed, but doing nothing is definitely a mistake. She approached the injured Korthak slowly, the medical kit held where everyone could see it. The wounded alien was unconscious, green blood seeping from a gash in his head. This might sting, she told Vexilon as she activated the medical scanner. The device immediately began analyzing the alien's physiology and suggesting treatments. Sarah's enhanced knowledge kicked in, providing her with information about Korthak biology that she definitely hadn't known before her stasis. As she worked to stop the bleeding and stabilize the patient, she was aware of Vexilon watching her every move. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," Sarah replied without looking up from her patient. "Your species doesn't have a history of doing the right thing." Sarah finished applying a bandage and moved to check the second injured Korthak. "Then maybe it's time we started a new history." She looked up at Vexilon. "Captain, I need to ask you something important. When you crashed here, did it trigger some kind of automatic system?" "Yes. Our ship's exotic matter was interfering with the AI network that guards this system. That's what started the awakening process." Sarah felt her stomach drop. "How many people know you're here?" "The entire galaxy by now," Vexilon admitted. "The Watchers broadcast an emergency signal the moment you started waking up. So everyone knows humans are awake again." "Yes, and they're all either running away or gathering fleets to come destroy you before you can start another war." Sarah sat back on her heels, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. Billions of humans were waking up across the planet, with no memory of the wars they had fought. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy was preparing for either exodus or genocide. "Computer," she said, "how long before the first alien fleets arrive?" "Estimated time to Sol system for nearest hostile forces, 72 hours. The same amount of time it would take for all the humans to wake up." Sarah realized that someone or something had planned this carefully. Humanity would be fully awakened just in time to face judgment for crimes they couldn't remember committing. "We need to contact the galactic governments," she said, standing up. "We need to tell them we're not the same people who fought those wars." Vexilon shook his head. "They won't believe you." "How could they? You have the same faces, the same enhanced abilities, the same technological advantages that made you so dangerous before. Then what do you suggest?" The Korthak captain was quiet for a long moment. "Prove it," he said finally. "Show them you've changed. Show them you can choose peace over war." Sarah looked around at her team, then at the injured aliens she had just helped. "How do we prove something like that?" "I don't know," Vexilon admitted, "but you'd better figure it out fast. Because in 72 hours, this system is going to be full of ships that want to finish what they started 3,000 years ago." As if summoned by his words, the sky above them began to flicker with the light of ships dropping out of hyperspace. The first scouts had arrived, and they were already broadcasting warnings for the main fleets to hurry. The clock was ticking, and humanity's second chance was about to be put to the ultimate test. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Across Earth, billions of humans emerged from stasis to find a world they didn't recognize and a history they couldn't remember. Command centers in every major facility struggled to coordinate responses as the full scope of humanity's situation became clear. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the United Nations building in New York, now converted into humanity's central command post. The building had been perfectly preserved by automated systems, but it felt like a museum dedicated to a civilization that no longer existed. Around her, newly awakened leaders struggled to understand reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Fleet movements, evacuation schedules, emergency council sessions among alien governments. The universe was preparing for humanity's return, and most of the preparations involved either running away or organizing to destroy them. "Status report," Sarah called out to the room. Captain Torres, now serving as military coordinator, looked up from a tactical display. 47 different alien fleets are converging on the Sol system. Estimated arrival times range from 6 hours to 3 days. "What about diplomatic contacts?" Marcus, who had taken charge of communications, shook his head grimly. "We've sent messages to every major government. Most aren't responding at all. The few that are responding are demanding our immediate surrender." "Surrender to what?" "Complete disarmament and permanent exile to the galactic edge." Some are calling for the execution of all military-enhanced humans. Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. She had never asked to be a leader, but the other awakened humans seemed to look to her for guidance. Perhaps it was because she had been the first to choose cooperation over conflict. "What about our own military capabilities?" she asked. Torres grimaced. "That's the worst part. The automated systems have been busy while we slept. Earth's defenses are beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. We could probably hold off every fleet they're sending. But fighting back would prove everything they believe about us. We'd be starting the human wars all over again." A new voice joined the conversation. "Maybe that's what we should do?" Sarah turned to see Admiral James Harrison approaching. He was one of the few humans who had been fully awakened with his original memories intact, including memories of the first human wars. His presence made everyone in the room uncomfortable. "Admiral," Sarah said carefully, "I thought you were reviewing the historical archives." "I finished," Harrison replied. His voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of suppressed rage. "And I remember now why we fought. The elder races tried to control us, to reshape us into something more convenient for their galactic order." "They were trying to make peace," Marcus protested. Harrison laughed bitterly. "By lobotomizing our colonies, by turning our people into drones, by negotiating treaties while secretly planning to contain us." He gestured at the displays showing approaching fleets. "Look at them. 3,000 years of peace. And the moment we wake up, they immediately assume we're the threat. Maybe because we killed 700 billion sentients," Torres said quietly. "In self-defense," Harrison shot back. "Every action we took was in response to their attempts to control or destroy us." Sarah stepped between them before the argument could escalate. "Admiral, I understand your anger, but we have a choice now. We can repeat the past, or we can create a better future." "With what?" Harrison demanded. "They're not coming here to negotiate, Doctor. They're coming to finish what they started." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. On the main display, new contacts appeared at the edge of the solar system. "First wave has arrived," Torres announced. "Ethereal collective fleet, approximately 200 ships." "Composition?" Harrison asked, his military instincts taking over. "Mixed. Battleships, carriers, and what looked like planetary bombardment vessels." Sarah felt her enhanced tactical knowledge kick in, analyzing the fleet's formation and capabilities. The information came to her as naturally as breathing, though she had no memory of learning it. "They're not here to negotiate," she realized. "That's an invasion force." "Incoming transmission," Marcus called out. The main screen flickered to show Elder Thesara, the same crystalline being who had sent the warning message days earlier. But this time, her light patterns seemed harder, more aggressive. "Humans of Earth," she began, "you have awakened into a galaxy that remembers your crimes. We gave you 3,000 years to change, to evolve beyond your violent nature. Your response has been to enhance your military capabilities and prepare for war." Sarah stepped forward. "Elder Thesara, we're not preparing for war. We want peace." "Peace?" The ethereal's light patterns shifted to what Sarah somehow recognized as contempt. "Your planet bristles with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Your people emerge from stasis already trained for combat. You speak of peace, while your Admiral Harrison reviews tactical plans for galactic conquest." Sarah shot a glance at Harrison, who had the grace to look embarrassed. "That's not what we're planning. Perhaps not you, Dr. Chen. You have shown mercy to the Korthak survivors, but you are not all of humanity. Even now, military factions among your people are advocating for preemptive strikes against our fleets." Unfortunately, that was true. As humans across the planet had awakened and learned their history, reactions had been mixed. Many, like Sarah, wanted to prove humanity had changed. Others, like Harrison, felt that the galaxy had forced them into their first war and was trying to do so again. "What do you want from us?" Sarah asked. "Proof," Thaisara replied. "Proof that humanity is not the threat we remember. Surrender your weapons. Submit to galactic oversight. Accept permanent restrictions on your expansion and development. And if we refuse, then we will do what we should have done 3,000 years ago." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. "Well," Harrison said, dryly, "at least they're being honest about their intentions." "They're afraid," Sarah realized. "They're all afraid of us." "Good," Harrison replied. "Fear keeps enemies honest." "They're not our enemies," Sarah insisted. "They're potential allies who don't trust us yet." "Doctor," Torres said quietly, "with respect, the Admiral has a point. They're not here to give us a chance. They're here to impose terms or destroy us." Sarah looked around the room at the faces of her fellow humans. Enhanced, trained, capable of incredible violence but trying to choose a different path. The tragedy was that both sides probably wanted peace, but neither could afford to trust the other. "There has to be another way," she said. "There is." The voice came from Captain Vexilon, who had been quietly observing from a corner of the room. His injuries were healing well thanks to human medical technology. "Captain?" Sarah asked. "Single combat," the Korthak said. "It's an ancient tradition among warrior species. When two groups can't resolve their differences through negotiation, they choose champions to fight in their place." Harrison snorted. "You want us to settle this with a duel?" "Not a duel," Vexilon corrected. "A demonstration. Choose your best warrior to face theirs. If humanity wins, you prove you're strong enough to defend yourselves and deserve respect. If the aliens win, you prove you're willing to accept the consequences of defeat." "That's ridiculous," Torres said. "The fate of entire civilizations decided by personal combat?" "It's been done before," Vexilon insisted, "and it has the advantage of limiting casualties to 2 individuals instead of billions." Sarah considered the proposal. It was primitive, almost barbaric, but it was also the kind of gesture that warrior cultures would understand and respect. "What would be the terms?" she asked. "If humanity wins, the fleets withdraw, and negotiations begin on equal terms. If the aliens win, humanity accepts their conditions for reintegration into galactic society." Harrison was already shaking his head. "It's a trap. They'll choose their best warrior, probably someone enhanced with 3,000 years of technology we haven't seen yet." "Then we choose our best warrior too," Sarah said quietly. All eyes turned to Admiral Harrison. He was the most experienced military commander, the most thoroughly enhanced human they had awakened. If anyone could win such a combat, it would be him. But Harrison was looking at Sarah. "No," he said, "not me." "Admiral?" "Doctor, you've been making the hard choices since you woke up. You chose to help the Korthak instead of capturing them. You chose negotiation over preparation for war. If anyone is going to represent humanity's future, it should be you." Sarah felt a chill of fear run through her. "I'm not a warrior." "Yes, you are," Harrison said gently. "You just choose to fight. For different things." Before Sarah could protest further, Marcus called out from his station. "Another transmission coming in. It's from multiple sources." The screen split to show not just Elder Thaisara, but representatives from several other major alien governments. The collective's Node 7, a luminous delegate, and others Sarah didn't recognize. "Humans," Thaisara began, "we have received your proposal for single combat through the Korthak representative." Sarah blinked in surprise. Vexilon had apparently been in communication with the alien fleets. "We accept these terms," the ethereal continued. "Our champion will be Weapons Master Krone of the Draconic Empire. He has never been defeated in combat." On the screen, a new figure appeared. It was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with scaled skin and eyes like molten gold. Its body showed the scars of countless battles. "Who speaks for humanity?" Crone asked, his voice like grinding stone. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I do." The alien champion studied her with obvious disappointment. "You? You are no warrior." "No," Sarah agreed. "I'm a scientist, a healer, someone who chooses to build rather than destroy." "Then you will die quickly." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but I'll die representing what humanity wants to become, not what we used to be." The terms were set quickly. The combat would take place on the surface of Earth, in the ancient Olympic Stadium that had been preserved and maintained by the automated systems. Both champions would fight with traditional weapons only, no advanced technology beyond what their enhanced bodies could provide. As the alien fleets moved into position to observe the combat, Sarah found herself standing in the center of a stadium that had once hosted games of peace between nations. Now it would host a battle that would determine humanity's future. Weapons Master. Crone stood across from her holding a massive two-handed sword that gleamed in the sunlight. Sarah had chosen a simple staff, a weapon that could be used for defense as much as attack. "Any last words before I kill you, human?" Crone asked. Sarah looked up at the crowds of humans who had gathered to watch and at the alien ships that hung in the sky like metal clouds. "Yes," she said. "I'm not fighting to prove humanity is the strongest species in the galaxy. I'm fighting to prove we're strong enough to choose peace." Crone laughed. "Peace is for the weak." "No," Sarah replied, settling into a combat stance that felt natural despite having no memory of learning it. "Peace is for the strong enough to choose it." The battle began with Crone's thunderous charge, but as Sarah moved to meet him, she realized that this fight was about more than just winning or losing. It was about showing the galaxy who humanity really was, beneath all the enhancements and weapons and terrible history. They were people who could choose to be better than their worst moments. And sometimes, that choice was worth fighting for. The outcome of that fight would echo through the galaxy for generations to come, marking the moment when humanity proved that even the most dangerous species could choose to change. But that is a story that belongs to those who witnessed it, and to the new galaxy that was born from the ashes of old fears and ancient hatreds. In the end, the universe learned that its one rule about humans had been wrong. The danger was never in waking them up. The danger had always been in keeping them asleep.